Warrior Lore, Chapter 3992. Following that, the dozen or so Confucian cultivators began to speculate about the truth of the matter. However, even if everyone had a theory, who knew which was the real truth? As for Xiaohua, he had already closed his eyes and began to meditate. He didn't pay any attention to what everyone was saying. Ao Ma Yun would sometimes ask a question, and sometimes she would listen quietly. However, there would occasionally be a hint of anxiety in her eyes. She would even raise her head and look into the distance as if she was waiting for something. The group of Confucian cultivators discussed for half a day, but there was no conclusion. Ao Sun and the others stood up and prepared to leave. However, Ao Ma Yun smiled and said, "Could it be that you think I gathered everyone together just to discuss this matter?" What is it, Mr. Ma Yun?" Ao Sun was taken aback and hurriedly asked. Unfortunately, Ao Ma Yun smiled and didn't answer. Immediately, a look of realization appeared on Ao Zhantian's face. He said in a low voice, "Mr. Ma Yun wants to gather us together to prevent the murderer from killing us separately?" Ao Ma Yun nodded slightly, and a smile blossomed on her gorgeous face. But Ao Sun was still a little hesitant. He said in a low voice, "If the murderer really wants to kill us, even if we gather together." A Confucian cultivator said impatiently, "We have no enmity with the murderer. At this time, we are afraid that we will be killed by the murderer. If we gather together, the chances of us being killed will be much lower." Yes, yes. Another Confucian cultivator said with a smile, "I am already in a daze at this time." Mr. Ma Yun is still calm and thoughtful. "I will meditate here. The murderer must be afraid of exposing his tracks in front of us." Then, the few Confucian cultivators didn't leave. Everyone sat down, either composing poems or painting. Some people even drank wine and sang. They looked very satisfied. However, everyone was a little absent-minded like Ao Ma Yun, as if they were waiting for something. This time, they didn't have to wait for long. In just a few days, a scream came from outside the restriction of the pavilion. "Let's go." Although Ao Ma Yun was a little surprised, he immediately flew out from behind the jade table and rushed out of the pavilion. Seeing Ao Ma Yun fly out, the dozen or so Confucian cultivators also followed him out. Ao Zhantian flew out a few steps and was once again impressed. He called Xiaohua, and only then did he follow Xiaohua out. Xiaohua and the others came out of the pavilion. The 5-colored clouds had not appeared in the space of Longxing yet. Looking at the left side of the pavilion, there were already several demon clan members flying in the air. These demon clan members' ugly faces carried a trace of horror. Xiaohua and the others flew closer and saw clearly that this was a cave inside a hill. The restriction outside the cave had been torn apart long ago, and the hard mountain rocks had also been destroyed. Half of 100 Zhonglong monster peeked out from the broken rocks. Its head was badly mutilated, and it was impossible to tell what kind of monster it was. However, looking at the dragon scales on its body and the claws that were deeply embedded in the mountain rocks, everyone knew that this monster was tyrannical. "This is Qiuyu?" Xiaohua looked at this monster that looked like a wild bull and knew that it was the bloodline of Qiuyu, the son of the dragon. He asked probingly. Ao Ma Yun bit his lips, and a strange look flashed in his eyes. He then nodded and said, "Yes, this is Qiuyu, but his strength is only at the upper 5th grade of essence power. He hasn't fully matured yet." Roar. At this time, the roar of Lord Dragon Envoy came from afar. Layers of clouds surged over like a tide. A huge dragon claw peeked out from the clouds and grabbed Qiuyu's corpse. Then, it disappeared again. "Shall we go over?" Ao Sun looked at Ao Ma Yun and asked in a low voice. Ao Ma Yun shook his head slightly and said with a wry smile, "Since we already know, why should we go over and take a look? Now that the interval between killing is getting shorter and shorter, they must want to take advantage of the time before Longxing arrives at Dragon Island to kill all the humans and monsters they want to kill." "They?" Xiaohua was slightly taken aback. He looked at Ao Ma Yun with some puzzlement. At the same time, a few Confucian cultivators noticed Ao Ma Yun's words. They looked at each other and said, "Shall we go back and talk about it?" Then, Ao Ma Yun ordered a few Confucian cultivators to go and explore, and the others returned to the pavilion. Ao Mayun originally wanted to activate the restriction, but after looking at the restriction of the pavilion and thinking about the restriction of the cave, Ao Mayun sighed slightly and simply threw the token on the jade table. Why did Mr. Mayun say they? Isn't it just a few monsters? A Confucian cultivator asked curiously. Why can't I see any clues? Ao Mayun was a little absent-minded. He glanced at the crowd and said with a smile, I don't know. It's just a wild guess. No way. The Confucian cultivator pretended to be exaggerated. Is there anything in this world that Mr. Mayun can't predict? Alas, of course. Ao Mayun sighed. In this world, except for the immortal emperor, who can search the whole continent? Even the immortal emperor can't know the movements of the whole hidden immortal continent. Maybe. Ao Moran guessed. Just as Mr. Mayun said, these are a few monsters. The strong ones went to attack His Majesty and the others, and the weak ones went to attack Xiao Yu and the humans. If there are really a few of them, no wonder Lord Dragon Envoy couldn't find them. Ao Zhantian nodded slightly, but then he asked curiously, but even if we know how many of them there are, what is their purpose? Who knows? A Confucian cultivator shrugged. There are many inexplicable things in this world. Who knows what the reason is? But if there are too many of them, Ao Sun looked at the unactivated restriction and said in a low voice, even if we gather together, I'm afraid we won't be able to resist them. If we gather together, we'll be able to take care of each other. Ao Zhantian said hurriedly, oh no, oh no. Just when everyone didn't know what to say, a voice came from outside the pavilion. Everyone was shocked and looked up, only to see a few Confucian cultivators who had just gone to gather information hurriedly flying back. One of them looked so flustered that he couldn't help but cry out before he reached the pavilion. What's wrong? Ao Mayun frowned slightly, looking a little displeased. Mr. Mayun, the Confucian cultivator said hurriedly. This time, besides Qiu Yu, Liang Yong was also killed. Especially, before the Confucian cultivator could finish, another Confucian cultivator beside him rushed to say, Ao Feng of the Qing province was also killed in his own pavilion, along with a dozen or so humans. Not only were Ao Mayun and the other Confucian cultivators dumbfounded, even Xiao Hua was shocked. If that was the case, then this trip to the Dragon Island was not a rewarding trip, but a frightening one. Is that true? Ao Sun couldn't believe his ears and couldn't help but ask. The Confucian cultivator in front of him was still in shock, and he said in a shrill voice, If you don't believe me, you can go and see for yourself. Ao Sun thought for a moment and really did fly out of the pavilion. But in just a few breaths' time, he turned back and shouted as soon as he entered the pavilion, Which fellow immortal wants to come with me to take a look? The Dragon Island is very cold right now, and there isn't even a single person in sight. My heart is trembling. Although Ao Sun's strength was not comparable to Ao Mayun's, he was still a Confucian cultivator of the 5th stage origin energy realm. How could he say such cowardly words under normal circumstances? But when he said such words, no one felt that there was anything wrong with it. Even the Confucian cultivator who rushed to say something shrunk his neck and waved his hand. If you want to go, then go. When I turned back just now, I was also scared. I was scared that the mysterious murderer would suddenly appear. Xiao Hua thought for a moment and said, I'll go with you. Ao Zhantian hurriedly said, I'll go too. Then, the three of them left the pavilion. Just as Ao Sun said, the entire Dragon Island was very cold and desolate, and there seemed to be an indescribable sense of danger everywhere. The three of them flew in the air, and they felt as if there was a pair of eyes peeping at them. Xiao Hua was a little confused. He couldn't figure out whether this feeling was real or just a fear that came from the bottom of his heart. The place where the Dragon Envoy's corpse was now filled with the smell of blood. Other than a few gigantic monster corpses, there were also dozens of human corpses stained with blood. It seemed that the human corpses were even more terrifying than the monster corpses. Their heads were either smashed or their bodies destroyed. Almost none of their corpses were intact. Xiao Hua's gaze swept across the corpses, and he couldn't even tell who these corpses belonged to. Sigh. Xiao Hua sighed and looked around. Other than the three of them, there wasn't a trace of life in the surroundings. It was completely different from when he first came to the Dragon Island. All the humans and monsters were in a state of panic, afraid that the murderer's claws would fall on their heads. Let's go. Although Ao Sun didn't believe it, he came to check it himself. But when he saw the situation, his heart felt empty, and an indescribable sense of terror filled his heart. He looked around vigilantly and said in a low voice, "Let's hurry back while the murderer is still worried." Xiao Hua and the other two returned to the loft even faster than when they came. This time, no one asked anything. The previous slightly noisy atmosphere was swept away by silence. Everyone sat there, full of thoughts. No one knew what they were thinking. Even Ao Mayun had lost his previous quick-wittedness. His eyebrows were tightly knitted, and his eyes were a little dull. Xiao Hua still walked to the corner and sat down. He closed his eyes and pondered. Unfortunately, he knew very little, and he was confused. After half a day, Ao Mayun coughed, got up, and said with a forced smile, "Since we can't escape being killed even if we gather together, then there's no need to gather together. If we scatter, we may have a chance to save our lives." Sigh. It's a pity that the dragon envoy who controls the Dragon Island is so irresponsible, treating our lives like grass. What can we do? What can we do? In the eyes of the dragon envoy, we are just bastards who cling to the Dragon Island. Ao Sun's tone was also unkind. Our lives and deaths are not important. What's important is that he wants to bring the Dragon Island back. At that time, no matter who the murderer is, he will be arrested by the Dragon Island. -13. Chapter 39-93. How could it be that simple? Ao Mayun sneered, then looked around. His gaze fell on a Confucian cultivator, and he said, "Yu Ping, come here. I have something to tell you." The Confucian cultivator called Yu Ping was stunned. He hurriedly got up and said, "What are your orders, Mr. Mayun?" "This matter is a bit secretive. Follow me to the quiet room to talk." Ao Mayun's figure flashed and walked towards the quiet room. Ao Yuping hesitated for a moment and then followed him into the quiet room. Then, Ao Mayun activated the restrictive spell of the quiet room. After a while, Ao Yuping walked out of the quiet room with a frown on her face. "Su Jing, please come here as well." Ao Mayun didn't follow him out, but his voice was heard. So, a slightly short Confucian cultivator looked at Ao Yuping, then hurriedly got up and entered the quiet room. Just like that, Ao Mayun called 3 more people into the quiet room to talk. After the 5th person walked out, Ao Mayun said to everyone's surprise, "Taoist Master Xiao, can I trouble you to come to the quiet room?" "Oh?" Xiao Hua opened his eyes and looked at the quiet room in surprise. He had the same expression as the other 5 people, but he still entered the quiet room after thinking for a while. After Ao Mayun activated the restriction, Xiao Hua sat cross-legged in front of Ao Mayun and asked puzzledly, "What advice does Mr. Mayun have?" "It's not advice." Ao Mayun raised his hand and took out a jade eye from his bosom. He handed it to Xiao Hua and said, "I have something to entrust to Taoist Master." "Oh?" Xiao Hua was even more stunned. He didn't take the jade eye and asked, "What is this? Could it be that you have entrusted to all the fellow immortals who came in earlier? Everyone else is just a cover." Ao Mayun shook his head slightly. "I really want to entrust it to Taoist Master. Then I can't accept it even more." Xiao Hua shook his head and said, "I've never met you before, and I don't have their dragon bloodline. I'm not worthy of fellow immortals' trust. It's because Taoist Master and I have never met before, and it's also because Taoist Master doesn't have true dragon bloodline that I'm entrusting this to Taoist Master. Could it be this thing is related to the murder on Longxing? Or the person the murderer is looking for you?" Xiao Hua asked. "Judging from the current situation, I can't come to a conclusion." At this point, Ao Mayun no longer concealed anything and said, "However, judging from these dead descendants of the dragon clan, it's very likely that I'm the murderer's target." "Oh, of course, this item has nothing to do with the murderer. It's just some records about my bloodline that I left behind. It won't cause you any trouble." "Fellow immortal, you seem to have some hidden troubles." Xiao Hua's eyes flickered as he asked, "Spiritual Master, please keep this jade eye first." Ao Mayun urged. I can't keep you here for too long, Taoist. Once you hear about my death, the restriction within these jade eyes will naturally be removed. You'll know when you take a look at it yourself. Sorry, Xiaohua waved his hand. This Xiao has never been interested in these mysterious things. If you want to entrust it to someone else, you should entrust it to someone else. Alas, spiritual master, you don't understand? Ao Mayun shook his head and transmitted his voice. This item involves the 10 clans of the Dragon Island, and they are all unreliable. Only an outsider like you can be trusted by me. Moreover, I've already heard about spiritual master Zhao's good deeds in the blood pool of gods and demons. Even I can't trust spiritual master Xiao. Could it be that you want me to trust Ao Zhantian, the 10 clans of the Dragon Island? What does that mean? Xiao Hua's heart trembled, and he hurriedly asked. Ao Mayun shook his head slightly, looked around, and still transmitted his voice. I can't talk too much about the Dragon Island. If spiritual master wants to know, what's recorded in these jade eyes is, haha, then this Xiao can't take it. Xiao Hua stood up and laughed. Fellow immortal, if you entrust this item to this Xiao, you'll be free of your burden. If the murderer comes looking for this item, won't this Xiao be in great danger? Fellow immortal, please remove the restriction. This Xiao is going out. Spiritual master Xiao. Ao Mayun was anxious and hurriedly stood up and said, this item really won't bring you any disaster. Xiao Hua waved his hand very unreasonably. This Xiao doesn't want to get involved in the internal strife of the Dragon Island, and even more don't want to provoke the 10 clans of the Dragon Island. Mister, you should find someone else. Alas. All right. Seeing Xiao Hua so resolute, Ao Mayun was extremely helpless. He looked at Xiao Hua faintly and removed the restriction. After Xiao Hua left, she opened her mouth. She originally planned to find another Confucian cultivator after Xiao Hua, but after thinking for a while, she lowered her head dispiritedly and followed Xiao Hua out of the quiet room. Everyone. Ao Mayun forced a smile and said, I've already explained some things to the 6 fellow immortals. We'll talk about the rest after we get to the Dragon Island. All right, since that's the case, Mr. Mayun, you also take care of yourself. The Confucian cultivators all stood up and bid farewell, and there was a hint of the wind is blowing and the water is cold in their tone. When Xiaohua followed Ao Zhantian back to the pavilion, Ao Zhantian immediately pulled Xiaohua and asked, what did Mr. Mayun say to you? Fiske. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, what can he say? I thought it was something important and just some gossip. Now that I think about it, it was to cover for one of the 5 people in front of us. Hee. As expected, Ao Zhantian smiled. If I'm not mistaken, it should be that Ao Yuping. He's usually very close to Mr. Mayun. Xiao Hua looked at Ao Zhantian with an exasperated expression. You're still guessing at a time like this? You should think about saving your own life first. Of course. Ao Zhantian looked at the restrictions around him and said with a smile, these tattered restrictions really can't compare to the spell formations of our Taoist sect. In order to save your own life, shouldn't you show us some of your skills? Yes, I don't need you to tell me that, Xiao Hua said as he walked into the silent room. He took out a jade talisman and set up the capital star formation. Come in, fellow Taoist Ao. With this spell formation, we might have a 30% better chance than the others. Haha, Taoist Master Xiao is really my lucky star. Ao Zhantian said joyfully as he entered the capital star formation. He immediately knew that this was the spell formation of the Black Wind Ridge after scanning it with his divine sense. You can stay here. Xiao Hua extended a hand and said, give me your token from the dragon tribe. Oh, you're not going to stay here? Ao Zhantian was taken aback. I don't have the bloodline of the dragon tribe. What am I afraid of? Xiao Hua said with a smile. There's no one in the pavilion. If something happens to the dragon tribe, we won't know. Then I'll have to trouble you, Taoist Master Xiao. Ao Zhantian was really grateful to Xiao Hua and handed the token to him. Xiao Hua exited the spell formation and sat behind the jade table. He narrowed his eyes and looked outside the pavilion. He turned the token over and over in his hand as if he was thinking about something. However, it was only for a moment. Xiao Hua waved his hand and put the token away. He then closed his eyes and began to cultivate. Half a day later, the dragon envoy's voice boomed like thunder. Everyone, come out of the restriction. I'd like to see who dares to kill a descendant of the dragon clan under my nose. Hee hee. Xiaohua laughed coldly. This dragon tribe's envoy is finally enlightened. With all the Yao and humans gathered together, the dragon tribe's envoy can borrow the power of the dragon tribe to find the culprit. Even if he can't find the culprit, he should be able to prevent more Yao and humans from being killed. This is probably not the dragon tribe's envoy's idea. It must be a suggestion from some Yao or humans. Thus, Xiaohua removed the restriction on the pavilion and also the capital star formation. He followed Ao Zhantian out of the pavilion. At this time, the restriction on the dragon tribe was still in place. He couldn't release his origin sense. The entire sky of the dragon tribe was covered in colorful clouds. Although the dragon tribe's envoy didn't reveal himself, there was an unconcealable dragon might leaking out from the roiling clouds. The dragon tribe's envoy and Xiaohua's idea was relatively ideal. However, the Yao race wasn't humans. Although some of them had transformed into human form, they didn't gather as closely as the humans. Even the humans were in a competitive relationship. When they arrived at the training grounds, they might have to fight to the death. Thus, they formed small groups and didn't truly gather as one. Xiaohua and Ao Zhantian were naturally with Ao Mayun and the others. At this time, Ao Mayun's face was a little pale. Her eyes were filled with fear as she looked left and right. It was obvious that her heart wasn't calm. Although there were quite a lot of Yao and humans, about 2,000 of them, they looked like a black mass at a glance. However, so many Yao and humans didn't say anything. The entire dragon tribe was as silent as before. Before the dragon tribe reaches Dragon Island, all of you should wait here. The dragon tribe's envoy's voice came from the clouds. This envoy doesn't believe that anyone would dare. Who? Damn it. Before the dragon tribe's envoy could finish speaking, another scream came from afar. Then, the dragon tribe's envoy roared angrily from the clouds. The dragon tribe's envoy's huge body swooped down. Its 2 dragon claws landed on the place where the scream came from like lightning. Rumble. A series of loud sounds came. Rocks and other debris in the distance soared into the sky. It seemed that there was a struggle. However, a moment later, the dragon tribe's envoy's angry roar sounded again. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Run! Seeing that the murderer was so unscrupulous and daring to commit murder in front of the dragon tribe's envoy and so many Yao and humans, some of the smarter humans already understood that within the dragon tribe, even the dragon tribe's envoy couldn't protect them. If they wanted to survive, they had to rely on themselves. Therefore, they shouted unconsciously and flew into the distance. It was as if they would be safe as long as they were far away from this place. Since someone had escaped, the pessimistic mood immediately spread throughout the dragon tribe. The Yao and humans who had just seen hope scattered again. Everyone ran for their lives. Fellow immortals. Seeing that Ao Mayun and the others were also about to escape, Xiaohua hurriedly called out, "Follow this!" shouted the pavilion first. Yes, yes. Ao Zhantian also thought of something and urged, "Mr. Mayun, let's go to my pavilion first. The Taoist has some defensive methods." -13. Chapter 3994. What means do you have? Ao Moran was a little surprised and shouted in panic, "Even the dragon envoy can't find the murderer. How can you protect us?" However, Ao Mayun waved his hand calmly and said, "Let's go and take a look. I believe in Taoist Zhao's means." Since Ao Mayun had spoken, although the others wanted to escape, they couldn't escape from Longxing no matter how hard they tried. They simply followed Xiaohua and flew to Ao Zhantian's pavilion. When they saw Xiaohua's capital star array, their faces were full of shock. Ao Zhantian said proudly, "This is the capital star array set up by Taoist Xiao. It's the same as the one set up by the Immortal Palace in the Black Wind Ridge. With such a formation, I believe we have a better chance of survival." "Oh, Xiaohua, Taoist Xiao." Hearing this, Ao soon slapped his forehead and exclaimed, "I remember now. Are you that Taoist Xiao?" Xiaohua smiled and said, "Let's not talk so much. Let's enter the array first. Although my array formation can't protect the entire Longxing, it should be able to protect the few of you. Thank you, Daoist Xiao, Ao Sun, Ao Moran, and the others cupped their hands and hurriedly entered the array. At this time, even if they didn't believe Xiao Hua, they could only treat it as a last resort. After everyone had entered, Ao Mayun stood there without moving a single step. Xiao Hua knew what Ao Mayun was thinking and said in a low voice, "Mr. Mayun, could it be? You don't believe me?" "Yes." Ao Zhantian also said anxiously, "Since you're here, you'd better hide for a while." Ao Mayun smiled and showed a rare relaxed face. He asked, "Daoist Xiao, do you think you can stop that murderer?" Xiao Hua shook his head without thinking. "I don't have that kind of strength." "That's right," Ao Mayun said with a smile. "If I hide inside, I'm afraid it will bring disaster to you. At that time, not only will I not be able to survive, but all of you will also be implicated by me. Since that's the case, why should I go in?" "Daoist Xiao, thank you for your help. My Ao family really can't repay you. Goodbye." After that, Ao Mayun turned around and left without any reluctance. Ao Zhantian was taken aback. He had never heard Ao Mayun refer to himself as a concubine. Moreover, he hadn't expected Ao Mayun to be so decisive and leave just like that. "Taoist master." Ao Zhantian looked at Ao Mayun walking out of the pavilion and asked with a puzzled expression, "What's going on?" "Sai, how would I know? You can go in." Xiao Hua waved his hand and followed Ao Mayun out of the pavilion. Outside the pavilion, it was truly a mess. The bleak atmosphere was even colder than the cold winter. Ao Mayun's originally plump back was particularly striking in this biting cold. Xiao Hua did not give chase. He only stood there and watched from afar. He was rather puzzled. This matter is truly strange. Since the murderer has such powerful strength and can even avoid the dragon envoy's primordial thought, then why didn't he make a move earlier? This murderer killed the monster clan and the human clan in front of the dragon envoy without being detected by the dragon envoy. Needless to say, he also used the dragon clan's concealment technique, which is somewhat similar to the dragon clan's secret technique of the heavenly abode river. Also, this Ao Mayun seems to have noticed something, but why didn't she go to the dragon envoy? Besides, this dragon envoy doesn't seem to be afraid of being attacked by the murderer, nor does he care about the lives of these descendants of the dragon clan. His mission seems to be just to bring these descendants of the dragon clan to the dragon island. Does he not care about how many he can bring? In fact, from an unimaginable point of view, maybe this murderer and the dragon envoy are in cahoots? The more Xiao Hua thought about it, the more he frowned. Moreover, the more he thought about it, the more scared he became. His previous detachment from this matter gradually faded. Watching Ao Mayun's figure disappear, Xiao Hua quietly released his soul consciousness and looked around. After confirming that there was nothing strange, he returned to the pavilion. However, he only entered the capital star formation and told everyone that Ao Mayun was unwilling to come. Then he sat upright in the pavilion again. Dozens of days later, the entire Longxing was completely shrouded in the horror of the murder. Almost every 10 days, one or more monster clan and human clan would be inexplicably killed, and all the corpses would be placed in one place. At this time, no one from the human clan or the monster clan went to watch the show. Every one of them was trembling in fear and trepidation, worried that they would be found by the cruel murderer. As for what the dragon envoy was doing, Xiao Hua did not know. He only instructed the green-robed Xiao Hua to control the invisible Yuanying and hide in a corner of the pavilion. He also instructed the scholarly cultivator Xiao Hua to prepare his Xintian true qi at all times, ready to face the seemingly omnipresent murderer and fight for his own survival. On this day, when Xiao Hua slowly withdrew his soul consciousness from outside the pavilion and was about to meditate, his heart suddenly moved. He thought of Ao Mayun's strange behavior. He unconsciously patted his forehead and said with some regret, "Alas, this Xiao is also a little flustered." This Ao Mayun seems to be somewhat familiar with the Dragon Island. Since she knows the 10 clans of the Dragon Island, she must also know the location of the Dragon Cleansing Pool. How could this Xiao forget to ask her? Thinking of this, Xiao Hua stood up and instructed the green-robed Xiao Hua. He used the Dragon Clan's concealment technique and stealthily moved towards Ao Mayun. If it was a normal time, Xiaohua would certainly fly over in the air, but at this time, Xiaohua did not dare to be careless. He did not ask for speed, only to not leave any trace. When he arrived in front of Ao Mayun's pavilion, it was the same as when Xiaohua and the others left. The pavilion's restriction was not activated at all. It seemed that Ao Mayun had already given up resistance and was waiting for the murderer to arrive. Xiaohua did not dare to act blindly without thinking. He released a wisp of soul consciousness and looked around. Then, he quietly urged the wood escape technique to sneak into the pavilion. Before his figure could appear, he heard Ao Mayun's faint but somewhat trembling voice in his ear. "You finally found me." Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. He didn't know how Ao Mayun had discovered his whereabouts. Almost without thinking, Xiaohua waved his hands and shot out several secret arts. First, he confined the space of several hundred feet around him. Then, he transmitted his voice, "Mr. Mayun, this Xiao has come. This Xiao has suddenly thought of a way that can save your life and not implicate the rest of us." "Ah, you are Taoist Master Xiao?" Ao Mayun was naturally shocked. How do you know the dragon technique of my dragon clan?" Just when Xiaohua had just revealed himself and had yet to answer, a kind of indescribable fear arose in Xiaohua's heart. It was as if a great danger was approaching Xiaohua. Ao Mayun's face was even more pale, and he opened his mouth to urge Xiaohua to flee. Since he had come to this point, how could Xiaohua hesitate? He raised his hand and took out the mountain river seal that he had prepared a long time ago. He transmitted his voice, "Fellow immortal, don't struggle." As he spoke, Xiaohua's mind swept towards Ao Mayun. How could Ao Mayun not know Xiaohua's plan when he saw the mountain river seal? People often say that even ants are greedy for life, let alone Ao Mayun, who had succeeded in cultivation. She immediately gave up resisting, and her figure was immediately taken into the space along with Xiaohua's mind. Xiaohua did not hesitate. He hurriedly withdrew the spell, and his figure flashed and rushed to the side of the pavilion. In this split second, an extremely secretive and powerful origin was born out of nowhere, and it swept past the place where Ao Mayun's figure had been. "Huh!" A very obscure voice of surprise followed, and then there was a loud bang. An extremely powerful attack fell from the sky and pierced through the entire pavilion. Everything in the pavilion was turned into fragments. "How dare you!" Just when that origin will was still searching, the furious voice of the dragon envoy above the 5-colored clouds sounded like thunder, and a huge dragon claw turned into lightning and grabbed down. Unfortunately, although the dragon claw had imprisoned the space of about 100 feet, when the dragon claw fell, it was still empty. It did not even touch a scale of the murderer. Since it did not find the murderer, the dragon claw waved again in the ruins of the pavilion, but did not find Ao Mayun's corpse. The dragon claw paused for a moment. Obviously, this was the first time it did not see the corpse after the murderer appeared. However, the dragon envoy only hesitated for a moment, and the dragon claw retracted back into the clouds. After the time it took to drink half a cup of tea, some demon race members appeared nearby. These demon race members poked their heads out mournfully, looked at the broken pavilion, shook their heads slightly, and went away. In Ao Zhantian's pavilion, Xiaohua's figure appeared. His face was waxy yellow. He sat down cross-legged, took out a jade bottle, and poured out a few pills to consume. After the time it took to eat a meal, his face finally became rosy. "Damn it!" Xiaohua coughed and cursed in a low voice. "This evil creature has the strength of the 7th level of origin power, which is half a level higher than the dragon envoy. I'm afraid he can do whatever he wants in the travel dragon. Who can be his match?" Io. Just as he finished cursing, Xiaohua came to a realization. Since he had saved Ao Mayun, then the murderer, whose strength exceeded the other demon race members, would naturally be looking for him again. Ao Zhantian and the others were definitely the targets of the search. If Ao Mayun's guess was correct, then Ao Zhantian and the others were definitely not the murderer's targets. Not only was he not helping them by hiding them in the capital star formation, he was harming them instead. Xiaohua hurriedly stood up and with a wave of his hands, he put away the jade talismans of the capital star formation. Ao Zhantian and the others inside the formation were shocked and hurriedly asked, "Enlightened Master, what are you doing?" Sure. Xiao Hua did not have time to explain, and he made up a story. It has been more than 10 days, and no demon race members have been killed. I'm afraid that the murderer... Before Xiao Hua could finish his words, a wave of origin power suddenly fell from above everyone's heads, and a dragon's might that could instantly kill everyone swept over. Not good. The group of Confucian cultivators turned pale with fright, and Xiao Hua was also shocked. He rubbed his hands together, and a bolt of lightning appeared out of thin air, striking toward the top of the pavilion. -13. Chapter 3995. It was exactly the same as the voice Xiao Hua heard from Ao Mayan. However, as soon as this voice appeared, it immediately disappeared along with the dragon's aura, as if nothing had happened just now. Xiao Hua's lightning surged out and hit the pavilion, completely destroying the roof of the pavilion, revealing the colorful clouds outside the pavilion. The group of Confucian cultivators were somewhat in disbelief. This life and death situation appeared too suddenly and left even more abruptly. As strong as they were, the murderer had already disappeared with the wind by the time they raised their chi. They almost didn't dare to believe their eyes. Roar. Similarly, as soon as the murderer left, the dragon envoy's roar sounded again, but this roar was like rolling thunder that gradually faded away. After a full half cup of tea's time, Ao Zhantian asked in a trembling voice, "Taoist, just now, did a dragon senior appear?" "Yes." Xiao Hua withdrew his invisible nascent soul, suppressed the surprise in his heart, and answered indifferently. Ao Sun also asked, "Since he left, then, we are not the ones he wants to kill?" "It should be." Xiao Hua turned around and looked at these Confucian cultivators, then walked towards the quiet room. "So, we don't have to be afraid of being killed by him?" Ao Moran asked again timidly, just like a little student asking a professor a question. Xiao Hua also answered, "There should be no need to be afraid. However, don't leave here, just stay here. Since he came once, he probably won't come again. Zhantian has some spirit fruits and spirit wine. Enjoy them slowly, but don't show too much. Just wait for the dragon to come ashore." Okay. Happiness came too suddenly. Ao Chiron and the others didn't know how to answer, only trembling and saying a few words. All of them fell to the left side of the jade table. Logically speaking, they were all grandmasters around the 5th level of elemental energy. Even if they were facing a mortal enemy and in the face of death, they wouldn't have lost their composure. However, in this kind of torturous atmosphere, they had been tormented for several months. Every time they thought that they could lose their lives at any time, this kind of fear was eroding their ambition. At this moment, their state of mind was clearly different from the Tao realm of Xiao Hua and the other Taoist cultivators. When they were relaxed, when they had escaped from the calamity, it was inevitable that some instinctive actions would appear. Xiao Hua entered the quiet room and didn't activate any restrictions. Instead, he simply sat down cross-legged and began to meditate. Within the pavilion, Ao Zhantian and the others rested for a moment before taking out some spirit fruits to consume. However, they didn't relax like Xiao Hua. Instead, they all began to cultivate. More than a few months passed in the blink of an eye. The rhythm of the invisible murderer's attacks began to slow down. In the end, it finally calmed down. The nervousness of being in a state of panic also slowly disappeared. It was as if the murderer's targets were all dead. The murderer no longer appeared. The remaining demon clan and human clan seemed to have escaped from the sky and gradually began to become active. A total of 47 demons and 13 humans died in the hands of the murderer, making a total of 60. The strength of these dead bodies was also uneven. Most of them were at the middle of the 5th grade and were not the demonic beast experts that Ao Zhantian and the others had imagined. It was also because of this that most of the demons and humans didn't know why the murderer's target was the deceased. This seemed to be an unsolvable mystery. However, all of the demons and humans, including the Dragon Island emissary who controlled the Dragon Island, believed that there would be a day when the truth would be revealed. And that day would be the day when the Dragon Island neared the Dragon Island. The Dragon Island silently traversed the seabed. In the dark green seawater, one couldn't see the exact shape of the Dragon Island. One could only see a flash of brilliance before it disappeared into the sea. The flowing light arrived at a very ordinary part of the sea. The flowing light abruptly stopped, and a droplet of water that was thousands of feet in size appeared in the sea. In an instant, all of the fish in the sea were frightened and frantically swam away. The Dragon Island only stopped for a few breaths. A strange wave of energy spread out from the Dragon Island. Then, the Dragon Island began to move along with the energy wave. In the beginning, the Dragon Island moved extremely slowly. However, it gradually sped up. In the time it took to eat a meal, the Dragon Island became a flowing light again. However, this time, the flowing light was different from before. A spiral ripple formed at the tip of the Dragon Island. As the flowing light formed, it rapidly spread out to the outer layer of the Dragon Island. What was special was that as the spiral ripple swept across, the color of the flowing light became even fainter. Gradually, the flowing light couldn't be seen clearly. The moment the flowing light became completely transparent, the flowing light seemed to have stopped. The entire flowing light rushed towards an invisible droplet of water in the sea. There was no fluctuation, no barrier. The flowing light shrunk little by little. Finally, it fell into the millions of droplets of seawater. Those who didn't understand the mysteries of the Dragon Island would never have thought that the famous Dragon Island was actually inside a droplet of water. This droplet was in an unknown part of the sea. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Who could find it? The demons and humans inside the Dragon Island couldn't see through the Dragon Island. Naturally, they couldn't know that they were already inside a droplet of water. At this moment, Xiaohua was meditating with his eyes closed. Suddenly, he heard a rip sound. The entire Dragon Island seemed to have been torn apart. Torrential seawater fell from the sky. All the pavilions, rocks, quagmires, and so on inside the Dragon Island disappeared in the seawater. Xiaohua and the others were startled. They hastily raised their heads to look. They only saw a huge continent in the sea that they couldn't see the end of. This entire continent was similar to the soul cultivator's remnant Xiaohua saw in the Forbidden Spring Ocean. It was completely submerged in the seawater. On this continent, there were mountain ranges, plains, hills. There were fishes, seaweed, and seaweed in the seawater. And at this moment, at the edge of the continent, there were some grooves that looked like the shape of a turtle. Above each groove, there was a several thousand zhang, 33 m per zhang, transparent crystal cover. Some of the crystal covers had floating dragon generals. Some of the crystal covers were empty. There were no dragon generals guarding them. See, this is the Dragon Island? Xiaohua sucked in a mouthful of cold air. He couldn't help but be shocked. Damn it, this Xiao always thought that the Dragon Island was somewhere in the four seas. It was an island, but I really didn't expect. This Dragon Island was actually at the bottom of the sea. Of course, the Dragon tribe was originally a water tribe. How could they live without water? They naturally thought that the Dragon Island was an island in the eyes of the human tribe. That was because they didn't break away from the human tribe's thinking. They thought that the Dragon tribe also lived in the air like the human tribe. In fact, in the eyes of the Dragon tribe, isn't the seawater air in the eyes of the human tribe? It would be strange if the Dragon Island was really an island. Thinking of this, Xiaohua hastily raised his hand and took out the mountain river seal. His mind shook, and he pulled Ao Mayun out of the space. At this moment, not only was Xiaohua surprised, Ao Zhantian and the others were also surprised. No one had noticed Ao Mayun's quiet appearance. She then looked at Ao Mayun again. Ao Mayun had suddenly appeared inside the traveling dragon's den, and the Dragon Island's strange phenomenon caught her eye. How could she not know that Xiaohua had safely delivered her to the Dragon Island? She only nodded slightly at Xiaohua and didn't say a word. Xiaohua smiled. This kind of woman who was so calm could really be the commander of an army. In the traveling Dragon Island, most of the survivors of the human tribe and the demon tribe were surprised. When they came to their senses and were about to use the escape technique to leave the traveling Dragon Island, they suddenly found that they couldn't even move their bodies. Whoosh! A gorgeous dragon pattern appeared from the crystal cover and fell on top of everyone's head. Then, the dragon envoy who controlled the traveling dragon island strangely appeared out of thin air. He opened his mouth and spat out the same dragon pattern to meet the gorgeous dragon pattern. Swish! The moment the two dragon patterns merged, a cluster of colorful light emerged from the dragon pattern and covered the dragon envoy. The dragon envoy's body shrank rapidly, turning into the size of the dragon pattern, and disappeared into the dragon pattern. Then, the dragon pattern rushed to the crystal cover. As soon as it came into contact, the entire crystal cover was instantly dyed blood red. Roar! A huge dragon roar passed through the heavy seawater and fell into the crystal cover. Xiaohua and the others felt their blood tremble. Several ochre-yellow dragons that were 3 times bigger than the dragon envoy flew over from the other crystal covers and surrounded the blood-red crystal cover. Xiaohua and the others understood that this must be the signal sent by the dragon envoy. These dragons must have come to arrest the brutal murderer in the traveling dragon island. Sure enough, the dragon pattern passed through the crystal cover. The dragon envoy revealed his body from the dragon pattern and said something to the 3 dragons. The dragon's body twisted in the seawater and immediately disappeared. The 3 dragons shook their bodies and opened their mouths. 3 dragon pearls flew out. These 3 dragon pearls gave off 3 different kinds of luster. They mixed in the seawater and turned into a huge net that completely covered the groove where the crystal cover was. Other than the eyes, no one's Yuan Shun could detect it. In just a moment, a few more dragons came from the mountain range in the distance. The dragon in front had a golden crown on its dragon horn. This dragon flew to the top of everyone's head and opened its mouth. A dragon breath as vast as the sea of smoke rolled and covered the groove. Within this dragon breath, the previous 3 dragon pearls' brilliance faded and slowly flew away. "You can open it now," the dragon commanded very majestically. "Yes, General," the 3 dragons responded. The 3 dragon pearls gave off 3 different rhythmic fluctuations. The fluctuations entangled together and fell towards the crystal cover. Once the crystal cover came into contact with the fluctuations, it immediately melted like ice water touching a raging fire. Xiaohua and the others felt the previous imprisonment slowly disappear. Then, he looked at the 9 dragons that had just arrived with Long Jiang. They immediately arranged themselves into a profound formation, surrounding all the humans and demons in the middle. That dizzying dragon breath rushed over. Even someone as strong as Xiaohua couldn't help but tremble. He couldn't help but groan in his heart, "Damn it, how can we live like this?" Just 9 random soldiers have the strength of upper 6th grade essence energy. This dragon general is probably intermediate 7th grade essence energy, right? -13. Chapter 3996. Hold on. Come out one by one. Under the dragon's might, everyone's body and mind felt extremely heavy. The giant dragon's order was like a god's voice echoing in their hearts. The humans and demons did not dare to dawdle. They walked out one by one according to the order of the grooves. Every time a human or demon walked out of the grooves, an inexplicable wave would sweep across his body. However, even after all the humans and demons had left the crystal barrier, the giant dragon did not discover anything. "Strange," the giant dragon muttered. He looked into the grooves again. At this moment, the grooves were empty. There was nothing but discarded corpses. Whoosh! At this moment, a watery light flashed. The dragon envoy flew over and asked anxiously, "General, did you discover anything?" "No," the giant dragon replied. "I've carefully checked the dragon line. There is no murderer like you said. This bastard must have used some kind of concealment technique to hide," the dragon envoy said through gritted teeth. "And this concealment technique is especially powerful. I can't find him even with the help of the dragon line. Since the concealment technique is so powerful, could he have escaped first and not followed the dragon line into Dragon Island?" the giant dragon asked. The dragon envoy shook his head. "That's impossible. Although I can't use the dragon line to find this bastard, I still control the dragon line. However, I am still in control of the traveling dragon. I can still prevent him from escaping from the traveling dragon. He must be inside the dragon line. That's strange. Don't tell me he can escape from my dragon breath? The giant dragon frowned. He thought for a moment, then ordered, "Take out these corpses and seal the dragon line. I'll send the dragon line to Fourth Elder. I'd like to see what kind of concealment technique this is." Yes, the dragon soldiers obeyed the order. With a wave of their dragon claws, all the corpses were thrown to one side of the crystal barrier. Then, as several dragon pearls flashed, the multicolored dragon pattern appeared again and landed on the crystal barrier. The dragon rune penetrated the crystal barrier and produced a rumbling sound. Then, another dark green water droplet was born from the crystal barrier. After the dragon formation was sealed, the dragon general raised his dragon claw and made a grabbing motion in the air. The crystal shield flew out from the groove, and the dragon formation shrunk to a size of 1,000 feet and fell into the dragon general's claw. Then, without even looking at the dragon descendants, the dragon general's body emitted a watery light and was about to flee. As for the other 9 dragon soldiers, they also moved their dragon bodies at the same time, preparing to escape with the dragon general. At this moment, Xiaohua, who was standing on the dragon island, was suddenly startled. His gaze fell on the corpse in the distance, and he seemed to have thought of something. Without waiting for Xiaohua to speak, Ao Mayun at the side shouted loudly, "My lord, take a look at those corpses first. Who knows if there's a murderer who faked his death?" How is that possible? When they saw Ao Mayun's strange appearance, Ao Zhantian and the others were all surprised. However, none of them dared to ask too much. Now that Ao Mayun reminded them, everyone came to a realization and looked at those corpses in unison. Roar! Before everyone's gaze fell, 3 beastly roars came from the corpses. The dragon python, Deity, and Jinghong, who were the first to be killed, suddenly rushed out of the corpses. Their bodies flashed with watery light, and they fled toward the dragon island in a panic. Roar! The dragon envoy, who was in charge of the dragon formation, was furious. He really didn't expect that the murderers who had caused so much bloodshed in the dragon formation in the past few months were actually the 3 demon clans who were killed first. He had painstakingly monitored the entire dragon formation and paid attention to the movements of the other living humans and demon clans at all times. However, he just so happened to miss the location of the discarded corpses. No wonder he couldn't find the murderers no matter how hard he tried. Enraged, the dragon envoy was about to give chase. However, the dragon general was twice as fast as him. Just as the dragon envoy's body swayed, the dragon general's body had already stirred up the water and disappeared. Then, a series of thunderclaps came from the mountain range in the distance. A layer of huge waves surged out of the calm sea. Along with these huge waves, 3 extremely disheveled demon clans appeared. Just as the dragon python revealed itself, the bloody light around its body flourished. Dragon chi gushed out from this bloody light. The bloody light mixed with the dragon chi and actually condensed into a huge dragon that was comparable to the dragon general. Roar! The dragon python roared loudly. A dragon claw slashed through the water and through space, striking the dragon general who was pouncing toward it. The dragon general seemed to be caught off guard. His whole body was hit by the dragon claw and fell to the ground with a loud boom sound. But in an instant, the dragon general's dragon tail flashed in the sea and smashed on the dragon python's head with a bang sound. The dragon python's body rolled a few times in the water. Once again, it flashed and escaped towards a mountain range. Looking at Deity and Jinghong, their bodies were even more agile. Before the dragon envoy and the 9 dragon soldiers could catch up, they had already escaped in 2 other directions. It was obvious that this was a plan that the 3 demon clans had long discussed. Woo! Dragon chi gushed out from the dragon envoy and the 9 dragon soldiers. 10 dragon pearls shot out. Small whirlpools appeared in the water thousands of feet around them. Wisps of pure water elemental energy surged towards the dragon pearls. The 10 dragon pearls grew to several feet in size. They split into 3 groups and chased after the 3 demon clans. GGG. Looking at the 3 demon clans escaping, The dragon general, who was supposed to be the most capable of capturing them, didn't use his escape technique. Instead, he stirred up dragon chi in the water. Streaks of dragon patterns surged towards his horns. When he opened his dragon mouth, a series of inexplicable dragon language came out of his mouth. Once the dragon language appeared, the water elemental energy within 100 miles of him immediately disappeared. It rushed into the dragon language at an unbelievable speed. Then, the dragon language brought about layers of light and shadows. The sound of huge waves rushed in the direction of the 3 demon clans escaping. Ah? Xiao Hua didn't know what others felt, but as a Taoist cultivator, even though he was at the bottom of the sea, he was extremely sensitive to the changes in the water elemental energy. Previously, when the dragon pearls stirred up the water elemental energy, his heart was only moved. But when this dragon general actually chanted the dragon language and stirred up the water elemental energy, how could he not be shocked? Don't all demon clans cultivate the power of the moon and stars? This dragon general, how could he stir up the water elemental energy? Moreover, why is his dragon language so similar to the Green Seal script? No. It should be said that this dragon language is extremely similar to my Taoist cultivation technique. Xiaohua thought. When he looked at the place where Long Yu disappeared, the seawater within a few hundred li radius had been confined. This confinement power was really too strong. Even the void was covered. Long Meng and the other 2 demonic beast experts who possessed 7th grade essence power exerted all their strength to twist their bodies. Although the confinement within 1,000 zhang radius was broken by them, the seawater within a few hundred li radius was like a cage that firmly locked them in place. Roar. The dragon general let out a dragon roar that shook the wilderness. This dragon roar was abnormally clear in the seawater. Following the dragon roar, the dragon general opened his mouth and a dragon shell fell into the water. The dragon general's claws continuously grabbed at the void, and the 3 demon clan experts who were not inferior to him, Long Meng, Dicky, and Jing Hong, were captured by him into the dragon shell. They were almost powerless to resist. All right. As the dragon general kept the dragon shell, the imprisonment within several hundred li of the seawater disappeared again. The dragon general ordered, "Carefully search these descendants of my clan. This general is going to the Star Brilliance Palace Hall to meet the 4th elder and report this matter to him. All of you, be careful. Don't let any unforeseen events occur." "Yes, General." The 9 dragon soldiers at the side answered and respectfully sent the dragon general off. Xiao Hua looked at the scene in front of him with a dumbfounded expression. He didn't expect that the dragon general of the Dragon Island would give him a vivid lesson as soon as he set foot on the Dragon Island. He saw a secret of heaven and earth that he couldn't even dream of. Mr. Ma Yun. Xiao Hua looked at the dragon envoy flying over with the 9 dragon soldiers and whispered to Ao Ma Yun through voice transmission, Did you see that?" Ao Ma Yun asked curiously, "See what? That dragon general just used? What kind of magic art?" Xiao Hua didn't know how to explain the doubts in his heart. After all, this was the magic art of the Taoism cultivators. He originally wanted to ask Ao Zhantian, but looking at Ao Zhantian's dumbfounded expression, he probably didn't know as much as Ao Ma Yun. Ao Ma Yun pursed his lips and smiled. This dragon general didn't use a magic art. Instead, it was the heavenly dragon technique unique to the Dragon Island. Heavenly dragon technique? Xiao Hua was puzzled. This heavenly dragon technique, why does it activate the spiritual energy of heaven and earth of our Taoism? This concubine doesn't know. Ao Ma Yun shrugged charmingly and said with a smile, "This is the secret art of the Dragon Island. Not to mention that we descendants of the dragon blood don't know. Even the ordinary dragon generals of the dragon race of the 4 seas can't learn it." At this point, Ao Ma Yun rolled her eyes again and said, "There are some vague records in this concubine's jade eyes, but if you don't want, give it to me." Xiao Hua stretched out his hand unceremoniously and said, "At that time, this Xiao was afraid that you would give up on yourself. Now, this Xiao obviously wants it. Hee, even if you want it now, this concubine doesn't want to give it to you." Ao Ma Yun laughed and looked at Xiao Hua with a smile. "Humph. Xiao Hua curled his lips and glanced at Aomayun and said, "Ungrateful. Hee hee." Aomayun couldn't help laughing. She really didn't expect that Xiao Hua, who had such a high cultivation, would occasionally have such a cute side. How was this the usual high and mighty attitude of a Confucian cultivator? Amidst her laughter, Aomayun took out the jade eyes and quietly gave it to Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua also unceremoniously took it and sent it into the space. At this time, 10 huge dragons flew over. In addition to the 3 dragons that were patrolling earlier, there were already 13 huge dragons surrounding the nearly 2,000 dragon blood descendants. Cough, cough. The dragon envoy withdrew his dragon body and turned into 100 feet in size. Standing in the sea in front of everyone, he coughed and said, "Everyone, although the 3 damn things, Dragon Python, Deity and Jinghong, have been sent to the Star Brilliance Palace Hall, General Long's show is right. Who knows if there are any accomplices among you? Now, before we go to the Dragon Island, we need to carefully check again." -13. Chapter 3997. In the face of 13 genuine dragons, how could these descendants of the dragon clan dare to refute anything? They didn't even dare to utter half a word. Subsequently, the 10 dragons took out 10 identical dragon weapons from their chests. After spitting out dragon's breath, they transformed into 10 passageways that were tens of meters tall and hundreds of meters long and placed in front of the demon clan and human clan. You'll be divided into 10 groups. Report your origins and what kind of selection you've gone through. As the dragon envoy spoke, he took out another dragon scale from his chest and rubbed the dragon claws into 10 portions, which fell into the claws of the 10 dragons. Subsequently, the demon clan and human clan lined up into 10 groups according to the dragon envoy's request. They accepted the inspection of the dragon soldiers in an orderly manner and entered the passageways. The passageways seemed to be connected to other places. The demon clan that entered the passageways didn't appear at the other end. Roar. Just as hundreds of demon clan were inspected, a faint dragon's roar came from afar. A golden cloud carried a golden little dragon and flew over from afar. Before the little dragon came close, its indescribable dragons might had already approached. All the human clan and demon clan who had the dragon clan's bloodline couldn't help but tremble in their hearts. Little clan elder. When the 3 dragon soldiers who were eyeing covetously saw the little dragon flying over, they hurriedly urged their bodies to welcome it. They said respectfully, "Why are you here, elder? Why can't I be here?" The little dragon smiled with its mouth wide open. There seemed to be some bubbles in its nostrils, which seemed to be snot. "What are you doing, little clan elder?" A dragon soldier replied, "These are the descendants outside the Dragon Island for this training. Because there was a killing incident in the Dragon Travel, General Long's show ordered us to inspect again." Damn it. When the little dragon heard this, he was a little angry. "It's just a training. You kill me and I kill you. Our dragon clan has few descendants to begin with. Won't more of them die in this way? I really can't see the stingy faces of these dragon clan." Yes, yes. Little clan elder is right. Another dragon soldier said respectfully, otherwise, the 4th elder of the Star Brilliance Palace Hall would be especially angry and specially arranged 10 generals to thoroughly investigate this matter to prevent any more mishaps in the stacked Jade Legacy realm. What? Hearing this, the little dragon suddenly became furious. The golden light around its body shone brightly. Its pair of dragon eyes looked at the thousands of demons and humans and shouted, They actually want to enter the stacked Jade Legacy realm? What qualifications do they have to enter with me?" Obviously, the 3 dragon soldiers were also shocked by Xiaolong's dragon might, and they hurriedly shouted, "Junior elder, quickly withdraw your dragon might. We can't take it anymore. The other dragon blood descendants can't stand it either." "Humph. If you can't even endure this, how can you enter the stacking Jade Legacy realm?" Xiaolong coldly snorted and arrogantly withdrew his dragon's might. Looking at the rapidly changing emotions, Xiaolong was like a young child. One of the dragon soldiers smiled apologetically and said, "Little elder, you've misunderstood. I'm not saying that these descendants can all enter. It's just that this year, the stacked Jadeite Legacy realm is finally opened, and it just so happens that the dragon blood descendants are training. Therefore, the 9 elders have a discussion, including the dragon clan of the 4 seas, and are preparing to select some dragons and dragon blood descendants to see whose bloodline is purer, so that they can accompany the little elder and the other true dragons of the Dragon Island into the stacked Jadeite legacy realm. I was wondering. Xiaolong's mood seemed to be better. He nodded and said, in the past, there were only 10,000 or so for the training. This time, there are actually 100,000. So this is the plan. Forget it. You go on your official business. I'll play here for a while. You don't have to pay attention to me. Yes, Junior Elder. The 3 dragon soldiers let out a long sigh of relief. They respectfully saluted and retreated. And that Xiaolong flew to a groove not far away and actually started to play. He flew from one groove to another groove and swam back and forth inside. It seemed to be very interested. Seeing this Xiaolong like this, Xiaohua couldn't help but laugh. He already somewhat understood. This Xiaolong might not be that old, but because of the pureness of his bloodline, he was born with the divine ability of the dragon clan. Just like Wu Qing and Xiang Zhili when he was in the Xiaoyu continent, they were born with an easier cultivation compared to other children. When he thought of the 2 outstanding juniors, Xiaohua couldn't help but think of Xiang Yang, Yin Qinglian, Zhuo Minghui, and Hong Xiaoferi. Who are you? Where are you training? A cold voice awakened Xiaohua from his memories. Xiaohua came back to his senses and looked up. A dragon soldier was holding a dragon scale in his hand, coldly looking at him. In front of him was a pitch-black tunnel. Oh, I am Xiaohua, Ao Zhantian's guard. Xiaohua said casually and slightly moved his body to the side, allowing Ao Zhantian behind him to walk over. However, Ao Zhantian didn't walk over as Xiaohua expected. Instead, he stood behind Xiaohua with some hesitation. Seeing Ao Zhantian like this, Xiaohua's heart jumped, and he thought to himself, could it be that Ao Zhantian wants to go back on his word? Damn it, if I had known this, I wouldn't have said so much to him before. If he refuses now, then wouldn't I become the dragon python's accomplice? Of course, he can calmly train, but I... Xiaohua's gaze hurriedly looked behind Ao Zhantian. Unfortunately, he and Ao Zhantian were behind Ao Mayun and the others. At this time, Ao Mayun and the others had already entered the tunnel. Ao Zhantian seemed to be struggling with his thoughts, and he was still hesitating. The dragon soldier had already sensed that something was wrong. Under the dragon's might, he firmly restrained Xiaohua and said coldly, you are Ao Zhantian's guard. How can you walk in front of your master? Speak. Lord, Ao Zhantian said indifferently, this fellow Taoist is my guard. His name is Xiaohua. I have already reported to the North Sea Dragon Palace at the beginning of the training. However, the dragon strategy doesn't allow the guard's name to be recorded, so Lord didn't see it. Phew. Xiaohua let out a sigh of relief and glared at Ao Zhantian. Ao Zhantian also smiled apologetically at Xiaohua. He had already decided to bring Xiaohua to the Dragon Island when he was with Long Xing. However, after witnessing Long Xing's massacre and hearing the dragon language spoken by the junior elder of the Dragon Island, he knew that this place was no small matter. He couldn't help but be worried that Xiaohua would get into trouble on the Dragon Island. Fortunately, after a moment of internal conflict, Ao Zhantian made a decision that was beneficial to Xiaohua. You come over first. The dragon soldier coldly waved his claw and said, how can a human be in front of a descendant of the dragon tribe? Yes, Lord. Ao Zhantian hurriedly walked forward and said respectfully, I am Ao Zhantian. After Ao Zhantian finished explaining his origins, the dragon soldier examined the dragon scales carefully. Then, he turned the dragon pearl suspended above the passageway and examined Ao Zhantian's physical body. Then, he waved his hand and said, go in. Yes, Lord. Ao Zhantian bowed respectfully and walked to the tunnel. He turned to look at Xiaohua and asked, where is my guard? If it's normal, there's naturally no need to investigate. The dragon soldier coldly said, but today is not normal. Your guard will have to report his background. All right, I will do as you say. Ao Zhantian looked at Xiaohua with a heavy gaze, and even a little apologetic. Xiaohua smiled and said, fellow Taoist, go in. Today is your training. I hope you will have good results. Thank you, fellow Taoist. Ao Zhantian didn't know what to say at this time. He was also a powerful Taoist nascent soul cultivator on the hidden immortal continent, but here, he was just a small character. He had already helped Xiao Hua as much as he could. What is your name? Where are you from? The dragon soldier asked again. Where is your sect? How do you know Ao Zhantian? Xiao Hua thought for a moment and regretted that he didn't change his appearance, so he simply answered, I am Taoist sect Xiao Hua, from Yu Province's Black Wind Mountain. Xiao Hua, Xiao Hua, the dragon soldier muttered and looked inside the dragon scales, but didn't find anything. Then, he took out another thumb-sized pearl and probed it with his origin sense. After a moment, his eyes lit up and he shouted, You are Black Wind Mountain's Xiao Hua, Taoist Master Xiao Hua? Sigh. Xiao Hua sighed in his heart, but a proud expression appeared on his face. After all, his reputation had spread to the Dragon Island, and this was enough for him to be proud. That's right, I am Taoist sect Xiao Hua, Taoist Master Xiao. Xiao Hua replied. Long Bing waved his dragon claws without hesitation and said, Xiao Hua, you have a grudge with the Immortal Palace. The Immortal Palace's true Lord Qingyuan was ordered to exterminate the Black Wind Mountain. Although you defeated true Lord Qingyuan, the Immortal Palace hasn't issued any other orders. But if you set foot on the Dragon Island, you will definitely attract the attention of the Dragon Island and the Immortal Palace. Before he finished speaking, the little dragon that was playing in the distance seemed to have found something fun. With a so sound, it instantly disappeared from the groove and appeared beside the dragon soldier. The little dragon leaned on the dragon soldier and pushed him away. The big bubble in its nose popped with a pop sound. It stared at Xiao Hua with interest and asked, You are that Xiao Hua who swallowed 100,000 immortal soldiers? How did you eat? I see that your stomach isn't big. Didn't you humans want to eat grains? When did you start eating human flesh? Xiao Hua rolled his eyes and looked at the little dragon with a smile and said, Sigh, it's a long story. Actually, it's not that my Black Wind Mountain provoked the Immortal Palace. It's just that when I was passing by the Black Wind Mountain that day, I just happened to meet a beautiful girl. Oh, could it be the 9th princess of the Immortal Palace? The little dragon blinked its eyes, and a strange light appeared in its eyes as it asked curiously. Of course not. Xiao Hua shook his head and said, This girl is a girl of the mortal world's royal family, but she has a blood feud. Xiao Hua controlled his temper and slowly told the story of Yuanya and Dia Wu to the little dragon word by word. Some of the details were even vividly described by Xiao Hua, causing the little dragon to be intoxicated. Looking at the dragon soldier that was pushed away by the little dragon, it looked at the little dragon helplessly, and then at Xiao Hua who had succeeded in his scheme. It waved its dragon claws and ordered the monsters behind Xiao Hua to go somewhere else. -13. Chapter 3998. After Xiao Hua finished his story, Xiaolong's eyes flashed with anger as he shouted, Since ancient times, it's said that beauties are the source of trouble. This Diawu. No, she doesn't deserve the name Diawu. This hateful princess actually ignored Yuanya and was loyal to him. She really deserves to die. True monarch Qingyuan did a good thing by destroying their country. However, it's a pity for your Black Wind Mountain. Actually, not every woman is so hateful. Xiao Hua said with a smile. This Xiao has a disciple named Changyuan. She has always been loyal to love, and after several lifetimes, she finally got married to her lover. Ah, there's such an amazing woman? Xiaolong's eyes lit up as he hurriedly shouted, Hurry up and tell me. This, Xiao Hua said awkwardly, It's not convenient for me to tell you here, right? Why? Xiaolong was curious. However, when he looked around, he immediately understood. The previous 10 passages had already been closed. The 12 dragon soldiers and the dragon envoy stood around helplessly, waiting for Xiao Hua to finish his story. Let's go. Follow me back to the palace. Xiaolong replied decisively, Tell me your disciple's story. That's not very good. Xiao Hua shook his head. I offended the Immortal Palace. Now that I've set foot on Dragon Island, I'm afraid I'll bring trouble to Dragon Island. Trouble my ass. Xiaolong sneered. The Immortal Palace didn't issue an immortal decree to arrest you. You also have the bloodline of my dragon race. Little elder, a dragon soldier hurriedly said, Xiaohua is not a descendant of my dragon race. If he isn't, then he isn't. Xiaolong tilted his head and said, Xiaohua is my good friend. Today, I invited him to Dragon Island for a chat. Even the great elder wouldn't object, right? Little elder, the dragon envoy hurriedly advised, even if we're not afraid of the Immortal Palace and let Xiaohua enter Dragon Island, he's still Xiaohua's bodyguard. However, he was Ao Zhantian's bodyguard, so according to the dragon laws, he wasn't allowed to go anywhere on the Dragon Island before he was selected by the Dragon Chi. Moreover, Little Elder's palace is a secret place of my dragon race. He can't go there either. If you're willing, after the Dragon Chi selection, you can go to Ao Zhantian's training grounds and listen to Xiaohua's stories. What bullshit! Xiaolong was furious, but after cursing a few times, he felt that it was inappropriate, so he changed his words. This dragon law is too strange. Why is it so troublesome for me to invite an old friend? That's not the problem. The dragon envoy hurriedly replied, Xiaohua is currently training, so he must first be selected by the Dragon Chi. Of course, he's just a guard, so he doesn't have any dragon bloodline. This is merely a process of the dragon law. Besides, even if he was invited by the junior clan elder, he still has to go through the Star Brilliance Palace Hall's inquiry and investigation before he can enter Dragon Island. All right. Xiaolong waved his claws impatiently. I know. Hurry up and let Xiaohua in. Remember, no, I will be watching from here. If you dare to chase Xiaohua away, I will tear you all apart and eat you. Hee, little elder. Don't worry. The dragon envoy laughed. I'm just a little worried about the Immortal Palace. I'm afraid it's not easy to report to the Star Brilliance Palace Hall. As long as little elder says the word, how can we not let Xiaohua enter Dragon Island? As he spoke, a dragon soldier opened the passage again. Xiaolong said, Xiaohua, you can go in. I'll go to the Dragon Chi realm to find you in a while. Little elder, the dragon envoy hurriedly advised, the Dragon Chi realm is a place outside Dragon Island to test the purity of the bloodline of the descendants. It's not suitable for you to go, right? What can I do if I go and take a look? Xiaolong was a little impatient. Why can't I do this and can't I do that? As he spoke, Xiaolong shook his head and left. The dragon envoy turned around and looked coldly at Xiaohua. Xiaohua, we all know what you're thinking. However, don't think that just because you've hooked up with the little elder, my Dragon Island will be schemed against by you. You must be careful. Although I'll let you enter Dragon Island, I'll immediately report today's matter to the fourth elder. You'll have to bear all the consequences. Xiaohua simply ignored the dragon envoy's threat. He was very disgusted by the dragon envoy's coldness towards the group of dragon blood descendants. Although he was clear that he had indeed taken advantage of Xiaolong's curiosity, he could only take one step at a time. However, he still said indifferently, this Xiao has no intention of letting your Dragon Island resist the Immortal Palace. It's just that you all feel too good about it. As he finished speaking, Xiaohua stepped into the passage with his head held high. He didn't even dare to look at these dragon generals. The passageway was pitch black, and there was no sense of transmission. Xiaohua could only be on guard as he walked in step by step. After he had walked for several thousand feet, his eyes suddenly lit up, and a gorgeous space appeared in front of him. This space seemed to be boundless. Spirals of clouds filled the entire space. Near the clouds, there were countless dragon patterns flickering and spreading. When the dragon patterns landed on the clouds, they caused the clouds to ripple like huge dragons. The dragon patterns were reflected in the space, and ripples appeared. Black and white colors seeped out from the cracks of the ripples. And in this crack, whether it was humans or demons, appeared one after another. Their faces were filled with longing and admiration. It was as if this was a sacred realm of the dragon race. Daoist Xiao is also here? Xiaohua naturally flew out from this crack. Ao Zhantian's voice sounded in his ears. Xiaohua nodded. Yes, it's really difficult to set foot on Dragon Island. Ao Zhantian's face was slightly hot. He looked around and changed the topic. He smiled and said, This is my first time coming to Dragon Island. I didn't expect Dragon Island to be at the bottom of the sea. Now that I've come out from the sea, it feels good to be in this space without water. Yes. Xiao Hua didn't want to mention Ao Zhantian's hesitation anymore. He smiled and said, dragons are dragons, and humans are humans. The place of life and the path of cultivation are also different. Actually, that might not be the case. Ao Mayun's voice sounded from afar. She flew over on a cloud and said, if Taoist Xiao understands the secrets of Dragon Island, he might discover some other strange things. Perhaps. Xiao Hua nodded. People often say that all things return to the same origin. Perhaps when we reach the end of cultivation, we will discover that the essence of cultivation is perhaps the same. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Before Ao Mayun could say anything else, 9 colored lights flashed around the entire space. The lights were like 9 huge dragons swimming together. Layers of oppressive dragon chi gradually filled the entire space. As the dragon aura swept across the space, the cloud patterns covering the space completely disappeared. One by one, the human clan, the demon clan, and even the dragon clan revealed their figures. Although the demon clan and the dragon clan were huge in size, they were like densely packed ants in this space. Disciples. A dignified voice descended from the sky. On behalf of Dragon Island, this old man congratulates you all for passing the selection and entering Dragon Island to train. This is the Dragon Chi realm, where the purity of your dragon blood is measured. According to the rules of Dragon Island, you will be divided into 7 levels according to the purity of your bloodline. You will go to Clear Snow, Baotu, Qiubo, Shijiao, Chunming, Yanshu, and Xiaoyu to train. However, this year is different. The stacked Jade Legacy realm on Dragon Island, which hasn't opened for nearly 1,000,000 years, suddenly shows signs of opening. Therefore, Dragon Island has selected some dragon blood descendants and dragons from the 2 rivers and 4 seas for this training. This time, the first to be selected in the Dragon Chi realm are the dragons who can enter the stacked Jade Legacy realm. Then, the other 7 levels of descendants will be selected. Mr. Mayun, what is this stacked Jade Legacy realm? Xiao Hua frowned and transmitted his voice in a low voice. Unfortunately, Ao Mayun didn't seem to hear him. He only stood there quietly and listened. Seeing this, Xiao Hua opened his mouth to speak. However, he could only open his mouth, but he couldn't speak. It was obvious that the entire Dragon Chi realm had been muted when the Dragon Chi was revealed. All right, that voice still spoke in a neither fast nor slow manner. You all can reveal your dragon bodies. Then, you can enter the training area according to your own destiny. Wang Wang. Following the disappearance of the voice, a huge rumbling sound was produced in the space. 8 dragon patterns appeared everywhere. One of them was as bright as the sun, and its brilliance was soft and gentle as it hung in the center. Then, a fist-sized black hole appeared in the middle of the dragon pattern. A powerful dragon breath rushed out of this black hole and majestically rushed into the space. Roar, roar, roar. Dragon roars resounded everywhere in the space. One after another, huge dragons revealed their figures. Those dragon descendants without dragon bodies also roared and released their dragon blood dharma bodies. There was no dragon blood in Xiao Hua's bloodline, so he wasn't affected by the dragon's aura. However, Ao Zhantian was different from Ao Mayun. Ao Zhantian's blood dragon hovered above his head, greedily absorbing the dragon's aura in the air. Meanwhile, Ao Mayun's bloodline dharma body was a pitch-black dragon form. This dragon form was at least 200 feet in size and was much more solid than Ao Zhantian's blood dragon. Not only were the dragon scales clearly visible, even the slender dragon horns on the black dragon's head and the slightly exquisite features on the dragon's head revealed Ao Mayun's gender. If they were anywhere else, their dragon-formed dharma bodies would definitely be astonishing. However, in this Dragon Chi realm, dragon forms that were thousands of feet in size appeared one after another. How could they show off their extraordinariness? Wang Wang. Another thunderous boom rang out, and the draconic aura increased once again. Ao Zhantian's blood dragon expanded by 30%, while Ao Mayun's black dragon expanded by more than 3 times, reaching a length of over 6,000 feet. It was also at this moment that Xiao Hua's dragon vein suddenly jumped. Dragon vein Xiao Hua's voice suddenly sounded. "Io, what's going on? Why does it seem like something is calling I out?" "Fuck." Xiao Hua turned pale with fright, and he hurriedly yelled, "Fellow Taoist dragon vein, you mustn't come out. Once you come out, who wouldn't know our purpose in coming to the Dragon Island? Even if I temporarily attracted the attention of that little elder, we won't be able to go to the dragon cleansing pond anymore." -13. Chapter 3999. Fellow Taoist, at this moment, the green-robed Xiao Hua's voice also sounded somewhat anxious. Ao Mayun's jade eyes recorded many secrets of the dragon clan, but there was no record of the dragon cleansing pool. "Why don't you ask her where the dragon cleansing pool is?" "I can't transmit my voice now." Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. "I'll go ask that little elder after this selection. He definitely knows more than Ao Zhantian and Ao Mayun." Buzz. As Xiao Hua spoke, more draconic aura descended. Xiao Hua's dragon vein pulsed several times again, as if there was a giant hand within the draconic aura realm that wanted to grab him. Xiao Hua didn't dare to be negligent. He hurriedly activated the dragonization art, trying to stabilize the dragon vein. However, as soon as he activated it, countless draconic aura swarmed in, and the dragon vein almost broke free from his body. Damn it, Xiao Hua was shocked and hurriedly stopped the dragonization art. Only then did the dragon vein begin to stabilize. In the time it took to eat a meal, the draconic aura increased several times. Ao Zhantian's blood dragon stopped growing after reaching 300 meters, but Ao Mayun's black dragon grew to 3,000 meters. Xiao Hua clenched his teeth and tried his best to resist the draconic aura. His dragon vein had already deviated from his meridians and was trembling violently within his body, as if it was on the verge of breaking free. "Children," that dignified voice sounded again. "Release your bloodlines. There is still one last chance. If your dragon true body reaches 10,000 meters, and your descendants reach 50,000 meters, you can enter the stacked Jade Legacy realm." Buzz. Hundreds of millions of vortexes suddenly appeared in the draconic aura realm. Strands of draconic aura condensed into crystal threads rushed out of the vortexes. All the dragons in the space roared as they absorbed the draconic aura. Ao Mayun's black dragon grew again. "Damn it, am I going to die?" Xiao Hua clenched his teeth and blocked the dragon vein with his body. He didn't want to enter the stacked Jade Legacy realm. He only wanted to find the dragon cleansing pool to condense his body. After enduring for the time it took to brew a cup of tea, all the vortexes began to converge, and the crystal threads also disappeared. The dragon pattern in the center began to change, and a large pitch-black hole gradually appeared in the gentle brilliance. Xiao Hua let out a long sigh of relief, knowing that the selection of the Dragon Qi realm was nearing its end. At this moment, it was time to select the dragons and their descendants who could enter the stacked Emerald Legacy realm. This Ao Mayan indeed has some background. Xiao Hua's eyes narrowed slightly as he looked at Ao Mayun's black dragon blood body, which had already reached a height of 50,000 feet. He thought to himself, "She definitely knows a lot of secrets." "Xiao Hua, where are you?" At this moment, a voice resounded through the air. The little dragon that Xiao Hua had seen earlier rushed out from the newly formed pitch-black hole. Once this little dragon entered the Dragon Qi realm, its body expanded uncontrollably, instantly transforming into a giant dragon that was several 100,000 feet long, suppressing all the dragons within the Dragon Qi realm. The little dragon's gaze was like lightning, and as its body expanded, it already saw Xiao Hua. Its entire body moved slightly, and in an instant, it rushed to Xiao Hua's left side. Although Xiao Hua let out a sigh of relief at this moment, the dragon vein in his body was still forcefully supporting itself. When the little dragon appeared in the Dragon Qi realm, its huge dragon body attracted almost 10% of the Dragon Qi in the space. Seeing the little dragon fly over again, almost another 30% of the Dragon Qi was attracted to Xiao Hua's side. This sudden gathering of Dragon Qi had already exceeded the limit that Xiao Hua's dragon vein could support. Roar! Another dragon roar resounded through the Dragon Qi realm from Xiao Hua's body. The dragon vein Xiaohua transformed into a dragon and came out of Xiaohua's physical body. Woo! The dragon vein Xiaohua had already revealed its figure, and it immediately stirred up a fierce wind. In the dragon chi realm that had already stabilized, all the vortexes opened up once again, and numerous crystal threads rushed madly into the dragon form. In just a moment, a giant dragon that was several 100,000 feet long, even stronger than the little dragon, coiled within the dragon chi realm. Not only was the little dragon shocked, even Ao Zhantian and Ao Ma Yun were dumbfounded. A dragon blood dharma body that was several 100,000 feet long. Not to mention that they had never seen it before. They had never even heard of it before. Ha ha ha. Fun. When all the dragons and dragon descendants were dumbfounded, the little dragon laughed loudly, and its huge dragon body swept towards the dragon vein Xiaohua. However, before it could get close, the dragon vein Xiaohua let out a dragon roar, and its body flashed with an indescribable dragon might and dragon vein true chi, forcing the little dragon to submit and not dare to get close. You. The little dragon almost didn't dare to believe the dragon chi emitted by the dragon vein Xiaohua was emitting. What kind of true dragon are you? Could it be a five-clawed true dragon? Unfortunately, although the dragon vein Xiaohua was almost fully formed, its dragon body was not complete, especially the abdomen and dragon head. There were still many incomplete parts. These incomplete parts were previously repaired by the dragon vein Xiaohua, and now in the dragon chi realm, the little dragon and the others could see clearly. What kind of dragon blood dharma body is this? The dignified voice couldn't help but shout. No, this is not a true bloodline. Which true dragon's descendant are you? Damn it, Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He looked at Ao Zhantian helplessly. He was only here to participate in the selection and training with Ao Zhantian, the true dragon descendant. He was supposed to be his so-called guard, but he never thought that he would cause such a big commotion in the dragon chi realm. Judging from the current situation, among the 100,000 dragons and their descendants in the dragon chi realm, there was probably no one who had his true bloodline. But thinking about it, the dragon vein Xiaohua was formed by the dragon vein condensed from true dragon chi. So of course the father of heaven and mother of earth's bloodline inheritance was nobler than the dragon bloodline inheritance. Buzz. As the dignified voice fell, a black hole appeared, and a rumbling sound came from the black hole. A huge suction force enveloped Xiaohua, and the dragon body that was several 100,000 feet long was pulled into the black hole, and of course, Xiaohua himself was also pulled in. Ha. Interesting. The little dragon coiled its huge body and also rushed into the black hole. Far away from the black hole, there was another huge dragon that was several 100,000 feet long. Its eyes looked at the black hole that Xiaohua disappeared into, and it revealed a thoughtful expression. Then, over 1,000 huge dragons were sucked into the black hole, followed by another 300 or so humans and demons. After these dragons and their descendants that were qualified to enter the stacked Jade Legacy realm disappeared, the other 7 dragon veins produced black holes again, and Ao Zhantian and the others were sucked in according to their dragon body and dragon form. Xiaohua was pulled into the black hole by the huge force, and he only felt dizzy. Tens of thousands of strange dragon veins appeared in the pitch-black darkness, and each of the dragon veins emitted a dragon might that was comparable to a huge dragon. The entire pitch-black space was like a country of 10,000 dragons, and countless gazes that wanted to see through the dragon vein Xiaohua swept over him. At this time, Xiaohua wanted to absorb the dragon vein into his body, but the huge force was like the might of heaven, so strong that Xiaohua couldn't resist. Woo! Just like a hurricane sweeping through the mountain forest, a burst of maple leaves fell down. Xiaohua heard the sound of the wind beside his ear, and he saw several dozen scarlet radiances flashing before his eyes. A huge palace hall appeared before his eyes. This palace hall was the same as the other places on the Dragon Island. It was filled with seawater. However, the seawater inside this palace hall was so calm that not a single ripple was set off. It was as pure as a crystal. When one's gaze fell on the water, this water seemed to be transparent, as if it didn't exist. Xiao Hua's figure stood still in the middle of the palace hall. That huge force already disappeared. Roar! The dragon vein Xiao Hua let out a long hiss and entered Xiao Hua's body. Xiao Hua absorbed the dragon vein and raised his eyes to look all around. His eyes were filled with astonishment. Below Xiao Hua's feet, one after another huge hexagonal pattern was pieced together. Each pattern was several hundred feet in size. Xiao Hua's gaze swept across the entire palace hall, and he felt that it was boundless. Raising his head, the ceiling of the entire palace hall was dark green. One after another huge star splendor was embedded in the dark green. The star splendor flickered. As soon as Xiao Hua's gaze fell on it, the star splendor immediately flared up. Inside the star splendor, one after another huge dragons were roaring, or fighting, or swimming, and so on. These dragons seemed to have an endless suction force, drawing Xiao Hua's gaze, wanting to drag Xiao Hua into the star splendor. Xiao Hua didn't dare to look anymore, and hastily withdrew his gaze. And at this time, one after another scarlet radiances flickered one after another. More than 1,000 huge dragons, including that little elder, were revealed one after another. Admittedly, the size of these huge dragons had already shrunk, but each of them was still more than 1,000 feet in size. But as it happened, in this palace hall, each and every one of these huge dragons seemed to be in human form, making Xiao Hua unable to detect any peculiarity. Haha, Xiao Hua. The little dragon's voice was very excited and shouted, "You really made me have a whole new level of respect for you. In this Star Brilliance Palace Hall, there has never been a dragon outside of Dragon Island who stood at the front more than me." Xiao Hua rubbed his nose and truly had a somewhat bitter smile. Of course, these more than 1,000 huge dragons had appeared behind him. Admittedly, the little dragon's voice was filled with excitement, but the eyes of the other dragons were not malevolent, as if all of them wanted to tear apart this human who had suddenly appeared and immediately suppressed them. After the little dragon finished speaking, more radiances appeared, and Ao Ma Yun and the other members of the Yao clan and the human clan appeared again after these dragons. They were already far away, and when Xiao Hua's gaze swept over them, he actually had a kind of ethereal feeling. Huh. A rough voice came from the depths of the Star Brilliance Palace Hall. Not bad. There are actually 1,462 people who have the qualifications to enter the Stacking Jade Legacy realm. This has really exceeded this old man's expectations. You wait for them to come over. Yes, inside the Star Brilliance Palace Hall, everyone from the Human Clan, Yao Clan, and Dragon Clan felt a chill in their hearts at the same time, and lowered their heads in response. Then, they saw the water under the feet of Xiao Hua and the others curl up, and layer upon layer of fine waves surged. One after another, vast palaces appeared in front of everyone's eyes. This palace hall was somewhat similar to the palaces of the Human Clan. It overflowed with precious light and was extremely extravagant. At the head of the palace hall, a bronze-colored old dragon was lazily floating in the water with his dragon body coiled up. On that raised dragon head, the two golden pupils in the slightly opened pair of eyes were particularly eye-catching. Fourth Elder, the little dragon, who had always been undisciplined, was also very respectful when he arrived here. He followed behind Xiao Hua and carefully shouted, -13. Chapter 4000. Ao Sheng, why did you go to the Dragon Chi realm? Even a casual sentence from the fourth elder sounded very dignified. His voice resounded in this grand hall filled with treasures, echoing around the humans and monsters. Elder, Ao Sheng swayed his tail and smiled. If the boy didn't go, how would he have discovered Xiao Hua? That guy is really incredible. Cough, cough. The fourth elder coughed twice and stopped Ao Sheng's words. Then, he looked at the thousands of dragons and demons in the hall and said, "You all should know the origin of the stacked jade Forgotten Realm. This time, when the Forgotten Realm opens, only the dragons with the bloodline of the true dragon can enter. We are already old, and our old bones can't withstand the torment. The mission of exploring the Forgotten Realm will be handed over to you all." Yes, we know. The dragons seemed to have been prepared and replied in unison. For the opening of the stacked Jade Forgotten Realm, my Dragon Island has already made preparations. You all are also the elites of my dragon clan in the 2 rivers and 4 seas. You all have the opportunity to enter the Forgotten Realm. It is your own honor and also the clan's honor. Remember, when you arrive at Dragon Island, you are a member of my dragon clan. You must forget your previous identity, especially when you enter the Forgotten Realm. You must cooperate sincerely and don't have any disloyalty. The 4th elder said earnestly. Moreover, this old man also knows that many demon clans, human clans, and dragon clans have plans for this folded jadeite legacy realm. There is no lack of killing between each other. Even within the dragon travel to Dragon Island, there are some demon clans that have killed many dragon blood descendants in order to obtain the qualifications. Dragon Island has already investigated these matters. Those who dare to make a move on the descendants of the dragon clan, my Dragon Island will definitely not tolerate them. We will definitely use the same methods to eliminate them. Also, when you enter the stacked Jade Forgotten Realm, your own opportunities are important, but the information regarding the Dragon Domain is even more important. Dragon Island will definitely reward whoever can bring the information out of the Dragon Domain. The 4th elder's sharp gaze once again swept across the dragons and said, ever since the Dragon Domain lost contact with my Dragon Island, the situation of the Dragon Clan has been deteriorating. The various clans are fighting as equals, causing trouble. Now, my Dragon Clan urgently needs information about the Dragon Domain. Yes, we understand. The group of dragons hurriedly replied. The 4th elder nodded. He waved his dragon claw and a dragon shell flew out. Thousands of golden leaves fell in front of every dragon, monster, and human except for Xiaohua and Ao Sheng. This is the true dragon medallion for entering the stacked Jade Legacy Realm. Inside were things to take note of and some preparations to make when entering the Forgotten Realm. Moreover, this true dragon token is also the proof for you to leave the stacked Jade Legacy Realm. Don't lose it. The 4th elder looked at the dragons holding the leaves and instructed indifferently, all of you may leave. The Dragon Island has prepared a palace for each of you. Recuperate and rest first. When the Forgotten Realm opens, the dragon soldiers of the Dragon Island will bring you in. Yes, we understand. The group of dragons bowed again, and then disappeared from the Star Brilliance Palace with a surge of watery light. In a short moment, only Xiaohua, Ao Sheng, and the 4th elder remained in the empty palace. Xiaohua, Dao Sect Xiaohua, the 4th elder looked at Xiaohua with interest. He was no longer speaking the dragon language, but the human language of the hidden immortal continent. In the early years, this old man also saw the news of you defeating the immortal palace's true monarch Qing'e. At that time, this old man only regarded it as a joke and didn't take it to heart. However, when the news of the fiend god blood pool came, you actually broadcast the seeds of grain within the 10,000-li blood pool, which immediately attracted this old man's attention. This old man couldn't think of anyone in this world other than the old bald donkey of the Buddhist sect who would have such a benevolent heart. What are you? A Dao sect cultivator, planning in your heart. Therefore, this old man rarely used the power of the Dragon Island to see where you came from and what your master was. However, before the real news came, you actually appeared in front of this old man. Especially, you not only shocked this old man, but also shocked the Great Elder and the 9 elders of the Dragon Island. Clan Elder also came? When Ao Sheng heard the Great Elder's name, his body immediately stiffened. He lowered his head and drooped his tail, as if he was very scared. Not only the Clan Elder came, the other 7 elders also came to the Dragon Palace. The 4th elder glanced at Ao Sheng and said indifferently, It's over, it's over. Ao Sheng muttered. His body slowly shrank and moved towards the back, as if he wanted to escape. The 4th elder sneered. If you want to slip away now, how can it be too late? When did I want to slip away? Ao Sheng was exposed by the 4th elder and immediately raised his head. He puffed out his chest and said, I still want to go to the Clan Elder to ask for a reward. If it wasn't for me, how could I discover Xiaohua's true dragon chi and pick him out? The 4th elder no longer paid attention to this little guy. He looked at Xiaohua again and said, Xiaohua, this old man asks you, do you know? Gui clan? Gui clan? Xiaohua was stunned. He slightly shook his head and said respectfully, "Let fourth elder know. This one doesn't know what Gue clan is. I've never even heard of it." "Then do you know the 10 clans of Dragon Island?" The fourth elder wasn't surprised and asked again. "This?" Xiaohua hesitated for a moment and nodded. This one heard people talking about the 10 clans of Dragon Island on Dragon Island. However, this one doesn't know which 10 clans they are. Could it be that this Gue clan is one of the 10 clans of Dragon Island? And the fourth elder nodded and explained. The 10 clans of Dragon Island are the 10 branches of Dragon Island. Dragon language naturally has the pronunciation of the 10 clans, but it can't be written down. If it is written in human language, it should be Long Gue Pang Gue Luo Gue clan. Since there are 10 clans of Dragon Island, why did the fourth elder mention Gue clan? Xiaohua asked strangely. Because the people who were killed on Dragon Island were all descendants of Gue clan. The fourth elder explained. This old man thinks you might also be a descendant of Gue clan. Xiaohua slightly shook his head. This one is a human, and I don't have any true bloodline. As for this dragon chi, it's also strange. This one only vaguely knows where it came from. As for how it really came from, this one's soul might have been searched by someone, so I can't remember clearly. Oh, in that case, you don't even know your own origin? The fourth elder wrinkled his brows and said in astonishment. Xiaohua looked at the old dragon in the distance. There wasn't any dragon might around him, and he also couldn't see anything special. However, Xiaohua clearly knew that he couldn't be careless. Any deliberate concealment would arouse the other party's suspicion. In the eyes of this old dragon, his strength was not even comparable to an infant. He had to say what he needed to say. Therefore, Xiaohua nodded and said, "That's right. When I was traveling in the lower reaches of Tsang Immortal Continent, I wanted to find my own origin. Moreover, after this one succeeded in cultivation, I also used the Dao sex magic to search my own memories. Inside, there was a fragmented abnormality. I couldn't find anything. Moreover, this soul-searching technique is very harmful to this one. This one doesn't dare to search my own origin again." And the fourth elder nodded and said thoughtfully, "It seems like my Dragon Island's secret technique can't be searched again? Fourth elder, please spare this one." Xiaohua smiled bitterly. This one can't withstand the soul-searching technique again and again. All right. The fourth elder looked at the small dragon body stretching out and said, "Follow this old man to the Dragon Palace Hall." "Can I not go?" Ao Sheng shouted hastily. "No." The fourth elder stretched out his dragon body. A burst of dragon chi filled the entire Star Brilliance Palace Hall. He swept Xiaohua and Ao Sheng into the water of the Star Brilliance Palace Hall and disappeared. The fourth elder's divine ability was very strange. Xiaohua only felt an unparalleled fluctuation wrapping around him. The magic power in his body and so on were all confined. In just a few breaths, this confinement disappeared again. When he opened his eyes, he found himself on top of a sea wave filled with the aura of desolation. He saw this sea wave surging to the sky. Countless dragons with different appearances were playing and dancing at the bottom of the sea. In the distance of the sea wave, it seemed like a mirage, but it also seemed like a real huge mountain range. Huge bird heads were resting on the huge mountain range. Even more giants and huge beasts were fighting on the huge mountain range. The aura of desolation filled Xiaohua's mouth and nose. A kind of primitive impulse came out from his dragon vein. Roar! That dragon vein broke away from Xiaohua's control for a moment. It rushed out from his body and turned into several tens of thousands of zhang large and fell into the sea wave. After the huge dragon roamed for a while, it floated out of the water and carried Xiaohua on its dragon head. Roar, roar! Looking at the depths of the sea wave, 9 huge pillars rose up like shrines. 9 huge dragons were coiled on top of them. Each of them raised their heads and roared. Wherever the dragon roars past, a mountain range engraved with the will of desolation appeared near the 9 huge pillars. Xiaohua, welcome to the Dragon Palace. On top of the 9 huge pillars, a huge dragon that looked like it was made of gold opened its mouth and said. That voice was so vicissitudes of life, but also so majestic, as if everything in the world would be driven by this voice. Roar! Out of Xiao Hua's expectations, the dragon vein Xiao Hua roared. The dragon head was raised high, lifting Xiao Hua to a height of 10,000 zhang. He didn't look much shorter than the huge pillars. Junior Xiao Hua greets Great Elder. Xiao Hua didn't dare to be negligent. He hurriedly bowed and saluted. Then, he looked at the few huge dragons on the left and the fourth elder, who he went to see first, and saluted again. Greetings, elders. Hee. A sharp sneer resounded. You are merely a badly damaged dragon body, yet you actually have this kind of vicious aura. You are still not in a hurry to submit after seeing us revered dragons. If we wait for you to reach perfection, wouldn't you turn the sky upside down? Along with this voice, a burst of destructive aura was transmitted from a silver-white huge dragon. It swept towards the dragon vein Xiao Hua. This aura was so vast, Xiao Hua had no doubt that if this aura landed on the dragon vein Xiao Hua, the dragon vein Xiao Hua would definitely turn into ashes. However, Xiao Hua didn't panic. If the Dragon Island's ninth elder wanted to kill him, why wait until now? Sure enough, just as this aura was about to land, the Great Elder said with a smile, Second Elder, don't be anxious. Xiao Hua is a human. He doesn't have enough control over this draconic chi. And this draconic chi is innately noble. It is normal for him to not submit to us revered dragons. -13. Chapter 4001. The second elder let out a cold snort, and his murderous aura instantly disappeared. Junior thanks the second elder for his teachings. Xiao Hua bowed. His expression was neither arrogant nor humble. Xiao Hua. The first elder's dragon head looked very sinister, but his tone was very kind. He asked in an extremely amiable manner, You are not a descendant of the dragon race, so why did you come to my dragon island? Xiao Hua said without hesitation, Let the first elder know that Junior didn't plan to come to Dragon Island. Then, Xiao Hua told him about how Ao Zhantian invited him to Dragon Island to be a guard. In the end, he said, Actually, Junior didn't plan to release the Dragon Chi when I reached the Dragon Chi realm. After all, Junior only wanted to follow Ao Zhantian to gain experience. Who would have thought that I would make such a big fuss? Is that really what you thought? The first elder's voice sounded like he was laughing yet not laughing. Xiao Hua hesitated. At this moment, he was very clear that today's crisis was unprecedented. Even Elder Wu, who faced the Huta stockade in the Million Ming Mountains, was not as serious as today's. In front of him was the ninth elder of Dragon Island. Dragon Island was as famous as the Immortal Palace, the Thunder Temple, and the Great Sage Temple. The first elder in front of him had the same status as the immortal emperor of the Immortal Palace. The 9 elders in front of him were the most powerful existences in the 3 continents. What he thought and what he did in the past, they might know very well. It would be unwise for him to play any tricks. Sigh, I won't hide it from the first elder. Xiao Hua sighed and said, In the beginning, Junior agreed to Ao Zhantian's request because Junior offended the Immortal Palace at the Yaodai Mountain. Junior was afraid that the Immortal Palace would punish me. So Junior wanted to use this trip to Dragon Island to avoid the Immortal Palace. Who would have thought that the Immortal Palace would attack the Black Wind Mountain? Junior had no choice but to fight. In the end, Junior still offended the Immortal Palace. So Junior wanted to hide on Dragon Island to avoid the Immortal Palace's punishment. However, Junior received another piece of news on the way to the North Sea Dragon Palace. Junior had no choice but to change his purpose of coming to Dragon Island. Oh? What news? The 4th elder asked with interest. It was unclear whether he really didn't know or was pretending not to know. Xiao Hua uses his foot to point at the dragon body beneath his feet and says with a flattering smile, I believe all the elders can see that this dragon chi of mine is not a real dragon body. I heard that there is a dragon cleansing pool on the Dragon Island. Incomplete dragon chi or dragon soul can be used to reconstruct a dragon body in the dragon cleansing pool. In order to increase my strength, I want to condense this dragon chi of mine into a real dragon body so that I can resist the pursuit of the Immortal Palace. What a fantasy! The 2nd elder mocked. Do you think you can enter the dragon cleansing pool as you please? The great elder smiled and asked, Is that all? Also, Xiaohua clenches his teeth and doesn't hide it anymore. He says, Junior's dragon chi is a dragon vein. Junior obtained the incomplete dragon jade by chance. Junior came to Dragon Island to see if I can fix the dragon jade. Ah? Fourth elder exclaimed. You really have the incomplete Long Yu? How much of the Long Yu is missing? Hearing this, Xiaohua understood a little. The moment he took out the dragon vein, the 9 elders of Dragon Palace noticed the aura of the Long Yu. Him being so honest can be considered the best choice. Indeed. Xiaohua sighs and answers honestly, Junior has 2 parts of the Long Yu. They can be considered as the middle and lower parts. Currently, I am still missing the dragon head. After Xiaohua finished speaking, he thought that the 9 elders of Dragon Island would be overjoyed. However, who would have thought that the silver-white dragon would let out a furious roar and pounce down like the heaven and earth? Even Xiaohua, who has the dragon vein, is suppressed by this ferocious aura. The second elder's malevolent dragon head is right above Xiaohua's head. He yells fiercely, You still say that you have nothing to do with the Gue clan. If you are not from the Gue clan, how did you obtain this incomplete Long Yu? Xiaohua never thought that this incomplete Long Yu would actually be related to the Gue clan. He opens his mouth but doesn't know how to explain. After a while, he can only shake his head and say, Junior doesn't know how to explain. However, Junior knows that Junior doesn't know what the Gue clan is. Furthermore, Junior doesn't know how this Long Yu is related to the Gue clan. Second elder. Great elder opens his mouth. This Xiaohua shouldn't be from the Gue clan. Furthermore, this old man also can't see how he is related to the Gue clan. Then where did he come from? How did he obtain the Long Yu? Second elder doesn't retreat. Instead, he yells, Back then, my Dragon Island used the power of the entire island, the power of the entire clan to search the 3 continents. Even after searching the 3 rivers and 4 seas, we still couldn't find the Long Yu. How did he, a mere human, obtain it? You can't see his origin, and even more so, you can't see his future. Where did such a strange person come from in this world? Second elder, do you remember the Gue clan outside of my dragon clan? Great elder doesn't care about second elder's refutation and only asks indifferently. What? Gue clan? You think Xiaohua is from the Gue clan? How is this possible? Second elder is shocked. His eyes look up and down at Xiaohua in disbelief. Great elder sighs and says, Xiaohua, where did the dragon chi in your body come from? I heard fourth elder say that your memory was erased. Do you still have some impression of the current you? This junior vaguely remembers that it was caused by the great earth dragon vein entering this junior's meridians. Xiaohua's head is spinning from the dragon clan's secret. He can only answer honestly. As for where, this junior also doesn't know. See. Great Earth Dragon Vein. Great Earth Dragon Vein. You. Second elder says the word, you 3 times in a row. He actually doesn't know how to continue. His entire dragon body retreats. His last sentence of envy and jealousy floats down. Why didn't you get stuffed to death by this dragon vein? Then, you obtain the incomplete Long Yu and began to cultivate the cultivation technique inside? Another bronze-colored giant dragon asks, how can you possibly understand my dragon clan's cultivation technique? Yes. Xiaohua nods. This junior doesn't understand the dragon clan's cultivation technique. Instead, this junior borrowed the demon clan's blood shadow art and let the dragon vein cultivate by itself. What? You used the demon clan's cultivation technique to cultivate my dragon clan's Long Yu cultivation technique? That elder is clearly shocked by Xiaohua's unconstrained cultivation technique. Yes, the dragon transformation art is recorded in the Long Yu. This junior felt that this dragon transformation art can strengthen the toughness of my meridians, so I thought of ways to cultivate it. Xiaohua's words are his original intention of cultivating the dragon transformation art. Fourth elder also looks at Xiaohua strangely and asks, in other words, you used the dragon vein as your own meridians and used the dragon vein as the foundation to cultivate the Dao Sex techniques? Indeed. No wonder you look like you are only at the 5th level of Essence Energy Realm, but your strength actually reached the 6th level of Essence Energy Realm. This way, it can be explained. Fourth elder sighs and says, Xiao Hua's heart trembles. He secretly feels lucky that he spoke the truth. Elders, what do you think? Great elder asks. Soul search. Second elder says coldly, this Xiao Hua's origin is really strange. It is as if he suddenly appeared from hidden, immortal continent. Furthermore, there are too many traces of the Gue clan on his body. If I do not carefully soul search, this old man will not believe him. Second elder. Fourth elder disagrees. Xiao Hua said it very clearly. His soul has already been searched, and he also tried to repair it. Now that we are going to search his soul again, are you still going to let him live? Whether he lives or not has nothing to do with this old man. It has nothing to do with my Dragon Island. Second elder replies, this sovereign only wants to know the whereabouts of the Gue clan, find out their plans, and find out the truth of the matter. This old man does not agree to soul search. That bronze-colored elder says, Xiao Hua is a human. The dragon chi in his body is the true earth vein fate. If he goes through the baptism of the heaven vein fate in the dragon cleansing pool, the heaven, earth, and soul chi will definitely condense into a 5-clawed true dragon. Then it will really be the Gue clan, the dragon clan of my dragon clan. How can we obstruct this kind of Gue clan's dragon? Xiao Hua's dragon vein might be able to form the Gue clan, but he himself is not from the Gue clan. This old man also suggests to soul search and trace his origin. Another elder says, will this have any effect on the birth of the Gue clan's dragon? You cannot soul search. Another elder shouts, the stacked jadeite legacy realm has not opened for several million years. Xiao Hua's appearance today might be an opportunity for our dragon clan. If he is able to find some secret of the dragon domain in the stacked jadeite legacy realm, it will be of utmost importance to the development of our Dragon Island. Soul search. Another elder shouts, even if we do not soul search, we still cannot let a human who does not know his foundation rashly enter the ancient legacy realm. Following the few elders' dispute, the sound of a tsunami frequently rises in the entire dragon palace. The scenery in the surroundings starts to tear apart. The desolate alien realm starts to surge towards Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua understands, the dragon palace that he is looking at right now is most likely an illusion. It was created by the Great Elder in order to let him, a human, adapt to it. Since the Great Elder can even consider this kind of minor detail, presumably, he won't kill him. At this time, a timid voice resounds, Elder, boy, can you say a few words? It is precisely Ao Sheng who has been hiding in the distant ocean waves all along, not daring to say anything. What do you have to say? The Great Elder asks curiously. Ao Sheng flies out from the ocean waves and says word by word, Elder, elders, it has always been difficult for our dragon clan to reproduce. Ensuring the purity of our bloodline is even more difficult. Boy might be young, but he might be respected as a junior elder. Isn't it precisely because the boy's bloodline is purer than the other dragons? Looking at the descendants of our dragon clan again, as long as they are related by marriage with our dragon clan, all of their descendants are flourishing. Our dragon clan has obtained a lot of shade. Towards this kind of descendant, our dragon clan can still treat them leniently. We can open up the Dragon Island to train and bestow them with grace. Why is it so harsh towards Xiao Hua, a human who has the potential to become a 5-clawed true dragon? This kind of dragon chi is the chi of heaven and earth. According to legend, the primordial dragon is only formed from the heavenly vein. Xiao Hua's dragon vein is the earthly vein. The dragon vein formed from the earthly vein is only bestowed with the primordial dragon's bloodline. This is extremely important for the reproduction of our Dragon Island. Don't be in such a hurry, the Great Elder said with a smile. This old man still has something to tell you. Yes, Junior understands. Xiao Hua knew that he was going to ask for the damaged Long Yu, but what can he do? He can only agree in a low voice. The Great Elder raised his dragon head, looked around and said indifferently, regarding Xiao Hua's training in the Dragon Island, we will stop here for today. Since he is going to enter the stacked Jade Legacy realm, then he will be considered as a member of our Dragon Island. During the time he is on the Dragon Island, no one is allowed to have any thoughts about him. Although the Great Elder's words sounded indifferent, His tone was unquestionable. Even if the three elders were still suspicious of Xiaohua, I'm afraid that this great elder can't do anything to him. Yes, we understand. The fourth elder was the first to answer. After waiting for a while, the great elder said to Xiaohua again, Xiaohua, you can take out the Longyu now, right? Xiaohua blinked his eyes and said with a smile, with great elder's Dragon Palace decree, Junior's heart is already at ease. Furthermore, the Dragon Island also gave Junior the opportunity to enter the stacked Jade Legacy realm. Logically speaking, I should hand over the Longyu to Great Elder. However, Great Elder, Junior actually doesn't want to enter the stacked Jade Legacy realm. This is somewhat like forcing a duck onto a perch. Humph. Do you still need my Dragon Island to pay some price before you are willing to hand over the Longyu? Without waiting for the second elder to speak, the fourth elder immediately asked with a snort. Xiaohua hastily replied, logically speaking, the Longyu originally belonged to the Dragon Island. Now that Junior has taken it, returning it to the Dragon Island in perfect condition is extremely good. However, Junior also narrowly escaped death to obtain the Longyu. Taking it out so plainly like this, Junior's heart feels uneasy. Hee, what do you mean by uneasy? You were just unwilling. The great elder was not surprised at all. He laughed and said, Xiaohua, do you know what the stacked Jade Legacy realm is? Do you know why the Dragon Python and His Majesty Qi killed so many Gu descendants within your dragon travel? Why? Xiaohua nodded his head. Junior naturally didn't know before. However, Junior knows now that they killed so many descendants. It is precisely because they wanted to obtain the opportunity to enter the stacked Jade Legacy realm. Furthermore, the stacked Jade Legacy realm has not been opened for several million years. Naturally, it is an extremely rare place to gain experience on the Dragon Island. However, that is only for the dragon race. It does not have any attraction for Junior. You are wrong. The Great Elder replied, the stacked Jade Legacy realm is admittedly on my Dragon Island. However, the reason why it is called Legacy Realm is because it is a fragment left behind by the Dragon Domain on the Dragon Island. It does not belong to my Dragon Island, nor does it belong to the 3 rivers and 4 seas. How is that possible? Xiaohua was shocked. He opened his mouth but did not know what to say. Also, the Great Elder said again, don't you want to mold the body of your dragon vein? My Dragon Island does have the Dragon Cleansing Pool. However, this Dragon Cleansing Pool is also divided into 2. One is the Dragon Island's own. This Dragon Cleansing Pool can only allow the injured dragon race to recover their dragon body. It cannot truly mold the dragon soul's body out of nothing. The other Dragon Cleansing Pool is exactly what you need. It can mold the body of the dragon spirit and dragon vein. However, this Dragon Cleansing Pool is within the stacked Jade Legacy realm. The Dragon Cleansing Pool on my Dragon Island is merely an imitation of the Dragon Cleansing Liquid that the dragon race brought out from the stacked Jade Legacy realm. It can't be. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. He really did not think that there would be 2 Dragon Cleansing Pools. The Great Elder ignored Xiaohua's expression and continued, also, don't you want the Dragon Jade's head? Then this old man will also tell you that the Dragon Jade was originally obtained by the dragon race, the Ho race and the Ho race when they were training in the stacked Jade Legacy realm. The Ho race, for some reason, they betrayed the Dragon Island and took the Dragon Jade away in 3 parts. According to my Dragon Island's knowledge, some of the Ho race's dragons entered the stacked Jade Legacy realm. If you want to obtain the complete Dragon Jade, you can only go to the stacked Jade Legacy realm to look for it. Just now, didn't Ao Sheng say? Xiaohua was surprised. After all, Ao Sheng had already mentioned the complete Dragon Jade. How would he know this Dragon Island's secret? The Great Elder replied, right now, this old man is telling you things that other dragon races' dragons don't know. Then, in other words, even if this junior offers the Dragon Jade, this junior will not obtain any benefits? At this moment, Xiaohua was truly speechless. You can obtain the qualifications to enter the stacked Jade Legacy realm. You can obtain the opportunity to find the complete Dragon Jade. The Great Elder smiled very cunningly. You can also obtain the protection of my Dragon Island. You can also no longer fear the pursuit of the Immortal Palace. Does Junior have any other choice? Xiaohua smiled bitterly and helplessly. You do. The Great Elder said in all seriousness, You can choose to take out the complete or incomplete Dragon Jade after training in the stacked Jade Legacy realm. At that time, you can propose your conditions to my Dragon Island. Of course, I presume that you also know that this Dragon Jade is something that my Dragon Island must obtain. Don't be too harsh on your conditions. Xiaohua smiled. Junior understands. Putting the Dragon Jade together. It will be easier to find it, right? Indeed. The Great Elder replied without hiding anything. This old man originally wanted to hand this matter over to Ao Sheng. However, he is still young and seems to have a good impression of you. Letting him go find it, it would be better to let him accompany you. All right. Xiaohua nodded his head. This matter is beneficial to both Junior and Dragon Island. Even without Ao Sheng accompanying me, Junior will definitely complete it. That's right. Since the stacked Jade Legacy realm is a fragment of the Dragon Domain, there must be something from the Dragon Domain inside. If Junior obtains it, as long as the Dragon Clan's descendants obtain something from the stacked Jade Legacy realm, in principle, it will belong to them. However, these things must be inspected by Dragon Island. You are entering the stacked Jade Legacy realm to train. Of course, you cannot break this rule. The second elder was impatient when he heard this and immediately answered for the Great Elder. Xiaohua's face showed helplessness. All right, Junior understands. Junior will also act according to Dragon Island's rules. Can Junior go down now? Don't be anxious. The Great Elder said again. I still want to tell you something. Although this stacked Jade Legacy realm is a fragment of the Dragon Domain, the spatial rules inside are already incomplete. It is completely different from Dragon Island or Hidden Immortal Continent. My Dragon Clan can enter inside. It can be considered as a fish in water. If you humans enter, there will be a lot of inconveniences. What kind of inconveniences? Xiaohua was startled and asked back. As for the specifics, this old man is also not too clear. After all, this old man is not a human. The Great Elder replied rather thought-provoking. However, according to some of the Dragon Clan's descendants who entered the stacked Jade Legacy realm, the Dao Sect's cultivator's divine sense cannot leave their body. All of their magic treasures cannot be activated. Most of the Confucian cultivator's eye-clearing techniques cannot be used. Similarly, true Qi cannot be activated. In other words, most of the Dao Sect's and Confucian cultivator's divine abilities cannot be used. For humans to train in the stacked Jade Legacy realm, it is quite dangerous. Therefore, in this old man's opinion, you should leave Long Yu behind. -13. Chapter 4003. Elder, do you have any other instructions? Xiaohua secretly calculated and asked. If not, Junior will take his leave. In go. Seeing that Xiaohua was unmoved, Great Elder had no choice but to say, I'll arrange a quiet room for you to cultivate. When the stacked Jade Legacy realm opens, I'll send you there. Junior wants to ask again. Xiaohua's figure swayed and took Dragon Vein Xiaohua into the space. He asked again, when will the stacked Jade Legacy realm open? Maybe tomorrow or a few years later. Fourth Elder said with a smile. It won't be more than 100 years. So long? Xiaohua was a little surprised. It's only 100 years, in the blink of an eye. Fourth Elder waved his dragon claw, but a wave rolled on the surface of the sea, covering Xiaohua and disappearing. Following Xiaohua's disappearance, the previously monstrous waves on the surface of the sea began to churn. Light and shadow flickered as the sea scenery around the giant pillar instantly disappeared. The desolate phenomenon on the surface of the sea suddenly extended into the distance. A moment later, a large dragon-shaped hall that gave off a desolate aura appeared outside the giant pillar. This hall seemed to be endless. The surroundings and even the roof of the hall were engraved with desolate diagrams. The diagrams were engraved with dragon patterns. Inside the dragon patterns, there was a faintly discernible and dignified dragon chi. From time to time, there was also a faint dragon roar coming from this dragon chi. The hall was also filled with crystal-like transparent seawater. On the side of the 9 huge dragon pillars, there was also an empty huge pillar. The 9 elders were still sitting on top of the huge pillar, as if they were thinking about something. After a long time, Fourth Elder said, This Xiaohua is a little strange. Alas, It's more than strange. With this old man's ability, it seems that I can't see through his true situation. An elder sighed and said, if Great Elder didn't use our dragon clan's secret technique to infer that this child is beneficial to our dragon clan, this old man would be like Second Elder and resolutely capture him and thoroughly investigate. Who doesn't have some secrets? Great Elder narrowed his eyes and said, as long as Xiaohua is useful to our dragon clan, who cares what secrets he has? But this Xiaohua's secret is too obvious. Second Elder said with some dissatisfaction, let's not talk about anything else. He has the dragon jade in his possession. We should ask him to hand it over now. Also, his dragon vein seems to be different from what he said. This dragon vein Dharma idol seems to have its own soul. How can a Taoist cultivator who is able to absorb the great earth dragon vein into his body and meridians be compared to an ordinary person? The Great Elder said indifferently, our dragon island doesn't have a complete dragon jade. We still have to rely on Xiaohua or Ao Sheng to go to the folded jadeite legacy realm to find it. Rather than let Xiaohua have some grudges in his heart and be dissatisfied with my dragon island, why don't we just give him the mission of finding Longyu? If he could find it, that would be for the best. He could profit from it himself. If he can't find it, then he will have to hand over the incomplete dragon jade to our dragon island. At that time, even if we don't mention it, he won't be able to refuse, right? The human race has always been full of schemes. How can we dragons guess what they're thinking? The Second Elder was still not at ease. Look at that Xiaohua. He used the opportunity of being a guard for my dragon clan's descendant to sneak into my dragon island, and even had the wishful thinking of molding his own dragon vein. Xiaohua looked at this young dragon, cupped his hands and said, many thanks to immortal friend Ao for speaking up for justice. Otherwise, this Xiao really wouldn't know how to deal with it. It's fine, it's fine. Ao Sheng waved his hand, looking very happy. I just said it casually. If the elders take it seriously, then so be it. Let's go. I'll take you to my palace. This? Xiaohua scratched his head and said, I'm afraid it's not appropriate for this Xiao to go to a mortal friend's palace now, right? What's inappropriate about it? Ao Sheng swung his dragon tail and said, you're my guest. Isn't it normal for the host to invite guests to his home for a chat? Then, all right. Xiaohua thought for a moment and nodded. However, we can't delay for too long. What if? Speaking of this, Xiaohua smiled. Ao Sheng also wanted to enter the stacked jade legacy realm to gain experience. His mission was to accompany him to find Longyu. If the stacked jade legacy realm opened, Ao Sheng would be the first to know. Go, go. Ao Sheng was overjoyed. His figure rolled and fled towards a mountain range. Although Ao Sheng was young, he was born with magical power. When he used the water escape technique, he disappeared in the blink of an eye. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent. He released his divine sense and also used the water escape technique to chase after him. After flying for a while, Ao Sheng's figure appeared on a towering mountain peak. This guy just stood still in the water and suddenly woke up. He hastily turned his head and said regretfully, damn it, I forgot. Xiaohua is a human. His water escape technique isn't very useful here. I'm flying so fast, I'm afraid he won't be able to catch up. While speaking, Ao Sheng turned around and was about to fly away again. He saw water light flickering 1,000 feet away. Xiaohua's figure appeared in the light. Haha, Xiaohua, you're really powerful. On this dragon island, there hasn't been any other dragon that can catch up with me. Ao Sheng jumped up happily. It seemed like he saw something very fun. Xiaohua smiled and said, it's hard to say about this Xiao's other magical powers. However, this escape technique is better than the previous one. Better than the previous one? Other than the water escape technique, what else can you do? Ao Sheng's eyes lit up and asked hastily, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. This Xiao knows all the escape techniques of the 5 elements. This Xiao is proficient in all of them. Xiaohua replied casually. Ao Sheng laughed loudly. Haha, I thought I was the only one who knew how to brag. I didn't expect spiritual master Xiao to also know how to brag. Oh? Where? Xiaohua pretended to be surprised. He looked up and said, why do I only see the bragging of you? Ha ha ha. Ao Sheng laughed loudly. He held his stomach and rolled in the water. After half a cup of tea's time, he finally stopped. You humans are still the most interesting. Aosheng straightened his body and waved his claws. Come, follow me to the palace. I'm tired of staying on Dragon Island. Not many dragons will talk to me like this. Nonsense. Xiaohua flew behind Aosheng and replied without any trace of politeness, You're a junior elder. You're destined to be an elder in the future. Who would dare to joke with you? Even if some of them were joking, I'm afraid they have other intentions. Other intentions? Aosheng blinked his eyes. It seemed like he understood, but it also seemed like he didn't understand. However, looking at Aosheng's half-understanding expression, and then recalling the scene of him playing at the edge of the Dragon Island, Xiaohua didn't know what to feel. Forget it, I won't think too much about it. Aosheng twisted his dragon body and said, Anyway, I'm still young now. When I grow up in the future, I'll definitely know. Then, what you said in Dragon Palace earlier, don't tell me it wasn't you who wanted to say it. Xiaohua suddenly realized. Guess? Aosheng smiled cunningly and didn't answer. Forget it, I won't think too much about it. Xiaohua imitated Aosheng's words. Anyway, I'm already out of Dragon Palace. Whoever said it has nothing to do with me. Why are you imitating me? Aosheng was dumbfounded. He stared at Xiaohua and almost forgot to fly. Xiaohua ignored him. He looked at the extremely dazzling palace and asked, This is your palace? Hee, that's right. Speaking of the palace, Aosheng's eyes narrowed. He smiled and said, Take a look. Isn't it especially beautiful? Xiaohua knew that the dragon race liked shiny things. Aosheng was still young, and he had the temperament of a little dragon. How would he know about true beauty and ugliness? Of course, Xiaohua was not stingy with his praise. This is the most beautiful palace that this Xiao has ever seen on Dragon Island. Haha, not bad. Xiaohua, you really have good taste. Aosheng was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. However, he didn't know that other than Star Brilliance Palace Hall and Dragon Palace's interior, Xiaohua had never officially looked at the appearance of any palace. At this moment, any palace was the most beautiful in his eyes. After entering the palace, dozens of petite little female dragons surrounded them. However, before they could get close, Aosheng impatiently waved his hand and said, Go away, go away. The group of little female dragons scattered in shock. Aosheng muttered to Xiaohua helplessly, Damn it, how old am I? Other than me, there are only little female dragons in this palace. I'm already tired of looking at them. Who still has any thoughts? -13. Chapter 4004. Ha 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 ha. Xiaohua recalled what Aosheng said in the Dragon Palace and couldn't help but laugh out loud. He already understood why the Dragon Palace placed so many little female dragons around Aosheng. It must be because Aosheng's bloodline was pure. The Dragon Island wanted more dragons to inherit Aosheng's bloodline. But they were really too impatient. They didn't wait for Aosheng to grow up and arranged so many little female dragons, making Aosheng feel sick, disgusted, and rebellious. Damn it, this won't affect Aosheng's sexual orientation, right? Xiaohua secretly thought without malice. These old things can't be so stupid, right? But in just a moment, Xiaohua understood. This Aosheng's bloodline was too important. All the 9 clans of the Dragon Island wanted to benefit from it. The elders clearly knew that it was too early to give little female dragons to Aosheng, but they couldn't resist the temptation of time. Who knew when Aosheng would have a good impression of a little female dragon? If they didn't make a move now, when would they? Quick, quick, quick. Aosheng urged. Xiaohua, quickly tell me the story of your disciple. Looking at this Aosheng who had the same temperament as a human teenager, or even a 7 or 8-year-old child, Xiaohua's heart was moved. He smiled and said, No problem. But before this old man speaks, you should at least have some spiritual fruits and spiritual wine to moisten your mouth, right? Of course, of course. Aosheng was overjoyed. He flew to the top of the palace and shouted, Quickly bring the Kunlun fruit and Mingtong liquid that the immortal palace sent last time. Yes, a seemingly delicate but actually very deafening voice came. It was obviously the answer of one of the little female dragons. At this time, Xiao Hua was already standing on top of the palace. He looked around with interest. This palace was also very big, but it was empty inside. There was no jade table, no tables and chairs. There were only some colorful pearls and gems. There were even some inexplicable luminous objects in the corner of the palace. It was essentially no different from the room of a human child. Not long after, two little female dragons had already brought up spiritual fruits and spiritual wine. One of the little female dragons glanced at Xiao Hua with disdain. Xiao Hua didn't pay any attention to that little female dragon. He kicked away a pile of fist-sized pearls on the ground, then raised his hand to take out a jade table and a praying mat from the space and placed them on the ground. He pointed at the jade table and said, "Put them here." The little female dragon looked at the spirit fruits and spirit wine with some reluctance, then looked up at Ao Sheng, who was circling around the palace, and put them down helplessly. As for the other little female dragon, just as she flew to Ao Sheng once again waved his hand impatiently and said, "Give them to Taoist Xiao." Yes, the little female dragon had no choice but to place the treasures of the immortal palace in front of Xiao Hua. After the two little female dragons left, Xiao Hua giggled and said, "Ao Sheng, these two little girls look pretty good." "Not bad." Ao Sheng stopped spinning and flew in front of Xiao Hua with a whoosh. "You don't know how to play, you don't know how to tell stories. What's so good about it?" "That's true." Xiao Hua chuckled, picked up a kunlun fruit, and took a bite. He blinked his eyes and praised, "This fruit is not bad, not bad." "It is indeed not bad." Ao Sheng grabbed with his dragon claw, wanting to pick up a kunlun fruit. But just as Ao Sheng raised his hand, Xiao Hua waved his hand and all the spirit fruits and spirit wine disappeared. "Oh?" Ao Sheng was slightly taken aback. He looked at Xiao Hua again and said with a smile, "These are all things that you gave to this Xiao. If you want to use them, let those cute little girls take them again. This Xiao is not willing to use these spirit fruits and spirit wine. I still want to leave them for my disciples." When Ao Sheng heard the first half of Xiao Hua's words, he was already angry and shouted, "What are you talking about? These are originally mine. Hurry up and take them out." But when he heard the second half of Xiao Hua's words, his expression was slightly startled. He could not say the following ruthless words. He smacked his lips and said, "All right, since they are for your disciples, then I will not snatch them from you. There are not many kunlun fruit and Ming Tong liquid in this immortal palace. These were all given to me by the elders when they were happy. Forget it, your disciples are lucky." As he spoke, Ao Sheng ordered the little female dragon to bring up a lot of spirit fruits and spirit wine. Looking at Xiao Hua eating the spirit fruits, Ao Sheng urged, "Can you tell the story now?" And Xiao Hua drank a mouthful of spirit wine and said, "Ao Sheng, remember, this old man is not telling you a story. It is something that really happened in this world. I am very envious of Yuanya. His experience is just a story in my eyes." Ao Sheng was very envious. "I don't know when I will be able to live such a wonderful life like him. Compared to Chang Yuan and Yu Zhongquan, Yuanya is nothing." Xiao Hua said and told Huang Yi's story. Huang Yi and Yu Zhongquan's story was originally Xiao Hua's personal experience. There was no need to embellish anything. Ao Sheng was already intoxicated by the story. When Xiao Hua finished, Ao Sheng held the half-eaten spirit fruit in his hand and stared blankly at a place in the palace. After half a cup of tea's time, he came back to his senses and sighed, "Ai, there is actually such a fate in this world? Is there really such an infatuated woman in this world? Even if I don't see her, I am drunk just by listening to her story." After saying that, Ao Sheng raised his cup and said, "Come, Xiao Hua, cheers to the extraordinary woman of the human race in this world." "Cheers." Xiao Hua smiled and raised his cup. After Ao Sheng finished drinking, Xiao Hua said again, "Actually, you don't have to sigh. Is there such an extraordinary woman in your dragon race?" "Oh, is that so? Why don't I know about it?" Ao Sheng's eyes lit up when he heard that. He put his head on Xiao Hua's jade table and shouted, "Tell me, tell me." Seeing Ao Sheng like this, Xiao Hua slowly said, "This old man has a disciple." "Ah? Why? Is it your disciple again?" "Xiao Hua, how many disciples do you have?" Ao Sheng was surprised. You actually accepted a dragon as your disciple? Xiao Hua curled the corner of his mouth and said with a smile, with this old man's cultivation, what is a few more disciples? However, you can rest assured that this old man did not accept a dragon as a disciple. Tell me, tell me. Ao Shang, who wanted to hear the story, urged again. This old man has a disciple called Lu Yi. Xiao Hua opened his mouth. However, just as he said a few words, he suddenly thought of something and asked, "Oh right, before I tell this story, this old man wants to ask." Previously, the fourth elder said 2 rivers and 4 seas, but the first elder said 3 rivers and 4 seas. Is the missing river in the middle the heavenly abode river? Yes. Ao Sheng nodded. The heavenly abode river is a branch of the Hui race. Oh, this is a secret of my dragon race. It's better if you don't know. Io, then it's troublesome. Xiao Hua patted his forehead and pretended to be regretful. This woman of the dragon race is probably from the Hui race. It's fine if you don't say it. You. Ao Shang was a bit speechless. He swam around the hall for a moment, then raised his dragon claw and grabbed a purple crystal ball in his hand. He gritted his teeth and said, "Forget it. Just tell me. I'm just listening to a story. Is it really okay?" Xiao Hua looked cautious. It won't cause you any trouble? What trouble can there be? The Hui race did a lot of tricks in the selection this time. If they didn't have the support of other dragons, how could they do it? Since the first elder turned a blind eye to it, then the matter of the heavenly abode river is nothing. Ao Sheng snorted. Besides, this old man is here to listen to a story. Who can do anything to me? This old man? Xiao Hua smiled and looked at Ao Sheng, who was pretending to be an adult. He asked, "Oh right, Ao Sheng, how old are you?" Ao Sheng smiled. "Xiao Hua, don't you know? The age of the dragon race is a secret. You can't ask casually." Xiao Hua looked defeated, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. This old man only knows that the age of a woman is a secret. I've never heard that the age of a dragon race is also a secret. It's a secret. Quick, tell me the story of the heavenly abode river dragon race. Ao Sheng urged. Xiao Hua knew that he couldn't hide the fact that he offended the North Sea Dragon Palace from the Dragon Island. In the face of a strong helper like Ao Sheng, how could he not know how to make use of it? He told Ao Sheng about Lu Yi and Xiao Yun, then told him about his grudge with the North Sea Dragon Palace. He didn't even hide anything about Jiang Tian, Jiang Xia, and Jiang Hai. Ao Sheng wasn't a fool. At first, he was happy to hear it, but in the end, he understood something. He looked at Xiao Hua with a strange expression. After Xiao Hua finished, he raised his wine cup and said with a smile, "Don't look at me. I was dragged into this as well. Who asked Lu Yi to be my disciple? There's a saying in the human race, a teacher for a day is a father for life. Lu Yi is my boy. How can I not worry about him? What about your own boy?" Ao Sheng immediately asked, "Don't tell me you don't have a dual cultivation partner. Little Fart Boy also knows about dual cultivation partners?" Xiao Hua scolded with a smile. However, just as he finished speaking, the surrounding seawater immediately solidified. A murderous aura was emitted from Ao Sheng's body. Oh no? Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. Ever since he met Ao Sheng, he always treated him as a child of the human race. After telling him a few stories, he didn't have any scruples when talking. Xiao Hua's words sounded very intimate to him, but it didn't sound like that in Ao Sheng's ears. "Xiao Hua," Ao Sheng said coldly, "you have to know your place. You're just a human cultivator. What qualifications do you have to talk to me like that on this dragon island? Don't think that you're a dragon just because you have a dragon vein. A human can never be a dragon. I can invite you to tell me stories, I can joke with you, but that doesn't mean you have the qualifications to talk to me like that. In this dragon island, other than the elders, there's never been a dragon who dares to talk to me like that." Ao Sheng's words were a bit fragmented and even sounded very awkward. However, that somewhat embarrassed and angry expression was real. -13. Chapter 4005. Who told you that a dragon vein isn't a dragon? Xiao Hua sneered. Haven't you heard of the phrase, "How can we turn into a dragon when we encounter a storm?" Although this Xiao's dragon vein hasn't formed yet, Once it enters the dragon cleansing pool, it will become a five-clawed true dragon. Can't this old man, as a five-clawed true dragon, scold you? This five-clawed true dragon is just this old man's dragon vein. If this old man's dragon vein can scold you, why can't this old man scold you? Besides, when did this old man scold you? This old man's words are just a kind of doting words to a human child. It's fine if your ears can't hear it, but you actually dare to criticize this old man? However, speaking of which, is it normal for dragons to speak to you like this? Do all the little female dragons spoil you and let you have your way? This. Ao Shang was a little tongue-tied. A trace of panic appeared in his eyes, as if Xiao Hua had hit the nail on the head. Xiao Hua originally wanted to talk to Ao Shang about the relationship between mother and son, but looking at the cold and cheerless palace, Xiao Hua held back, afraid that he would really expose Ao Shang's reverse scale. Forget it. Ao Shang's eyes flashed with an even more complicated expression. The draconic aura around him flashed, and the killing intent from before was swept away. He said indifferently, even if you have the qualifications to say these words in the future, you don't have it now. Xiao Hua looked at this seemingly childish and happy little dragon, but there was some bitterness in his heart that others didn't know about. He raised his cup and said, "Drink today, drink today. Don't let the golden goblet face the moon empty. Drink today, drink today. Don't let the golden goblet face the moon empty." Ao Shang sighed and raised his cup. Good poem. Sometimes, I really envy you humans. Although you don't live for long, you enjoy so many things. Family, love, life. Even these poems are excellent. I really don't know how your human brain works. Heavenly Tao Grand Duke. Each race has its own benefits. We human cultivators envy the dragon race's lifespan and the strength of their dragon bodies, Xiao Hua said with a smile. Furthermore, you dragons are born with innate divine abilities, so you don't need any cultivation at all. But what about us humans? Tens of thousands of years of bitter training can't even compare to a single tail swing from you. But they have warmth, they have kinship. These are all things that I envy. Ao Shang continued to sigh. I really want to see those disciples of yours. I want to see their happiness. Unfortunately, I can't leave the Dragon Island yet. Xiao Hua pondered for a moment and understood that Ao Shang's temper was not a casual thing. He must have sensed something and used it to stop him from continuing. However, when he heard Ao Shang's words, he couldn't help but laugh. What's so difficult about that? If you see them, this old man will call them out at any time. Ao Shang was stunned and asked curiously, You brought them to Dragon Island? Yeah, why can't I? Xiao Hua replied naturally, How did you bring them here? Ao Shang was even more curious. The dragon formation on Dragon Island prevents all humans, demons, and dragons from entering without dragon travel. Even if you put them into the Chinkuan bracelet, it won't work. Xiao Hua blinked his eyes and took out the Kunlun mirror. He smiled and said, How about this? Kunlun mirror? You actually have the Kunlun mirror? Ao Shang couldn't believe his eyes. He looked at it again and again before saying, With this ancient artifact, you should be able to bring them in. Xiao Hua looked around and said, Your main hall is filled with seawater. This old man's disciples might not be able to adapt. Well said. Ao Shang opened his mouth and a blue water-repelling pearl fell into the seawater. The moment the pearl touched the seawater, the crystal-like seawater immediately rolled back. Ao Shang raised his dragon claw and pointed. The water-repelling pearl flew to the top of the hall. The hall overflowed with brilliance, and all the seawater in the hall was forced out. Even the ground was incomparably dry. Then, Xiao Hua let Chang Yuan, Yu Zhongquan, Yuan Ya, Lu Yi, and Wang Bianfei out. After the five of them greeted Xiao Hua, they also greeted Ao Shang. Xiao Hua waited for everyone to greet him and said a few words. Then, Xiao Hua sent Yu Zhongquan, Chang Yuan, and Yuan Ya into the space. Only Lu Yi and Wang Bianfei were left behind. He directly sat on the praying mat and closed his eyes to meditate. As expected by Xiao Hua, in just half a cup of tea's time, Lu Yi and Ao Shang had their arms around each other's shoulders. Wang Bianfei was at the side and said something with a smile. From time to time, Wang Bianfei would write some poems and draw some pictures. Ao Shang was very envious. Damn it, you still say you're not a child. Xiao Hua glanced at the three of them. He was extremely hostile towards Ao Shang in his heart. This old man won't play with you anymore. Let this old man's disciples deal with you. Let's see who's the opponent. After the three of them had been fooling around for half a day, Ao Shang himself took the initiative to walk over and said with a smile, "Spiritual master, take Xiaoyun out. After all, Xiaoyun is brother Lu's sister. As her brother, I should also do my best." Looking at Lu Yi, who was beside Ao Shang, his eyes were also filled with concern. Xiao Hua did not tell Lu Yi about Xiaoyun's matter. He was afraid that it would cause Ao Shang's disgust. Now that Ao Shang brought it up, he was naturally willing. All right. Xiao Hua nodded. He shook the Kunlun mirror again and took out Xiaoyun's. See. Ao Shang took a glance and sucked in a breath of cold air. He looked at Lu Yi with some sorrow and said, "Brother Lu, this North Sea Dragon Palace is really vicious. This seal, other than my dragon race, or even the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas and Dragon Island, no other dragon race can undo it." Fortunately, Spiritual Master Xiao did not try. Otherwise, there would be big trouble. Why? Lu Yi asked first. Ao Shang raised his hand and pointed at Xiaoyun and said, "Xiaoyun's seal was set up by my dragon race's heavenly dragon language technique. It cannot be undone without the heavenly dragon language technique. And this heavenly dragon language technique can only be understood by my Dragon Island in the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Don't you think this is big trouble? Moreover, this seal is very vicious. If Spiritual Master is unable to undo it, not only will he suffer a backlash, Xiaoyun will also be injured." In that case, Lu Yi's eyes rolled around. "I have to trouble Brother Long with this matter?" No. Ao Shang hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Although I have some divine abilities, I have not cultivated the heavenly dragon language technique. I can't undo this seal." "Then what should we do?" Lu Yi asked anxiously. Ao Shang had a rare look of difficulty on his face as he said in a low voice, "The special thing is that Xiaoyun is the little princess of the heavenly abode river, which means that she is the princess of the Ho tribe. No one on Dragon Island will save her. If it was in the past, I might have gone to beg the elders. But now that the Gue race has caused such a big trouble during the training, the elders are also full of anger. I don't dare to find trouble with them." Heavenly dragon language technique? Xiao Hua listened for a moment and said, "Ao Shang, if you have the records of the heavenly dragon language technique, why don't you show it to this old man? Maybe this old man has some ideas?" Hee, Taoist's wishful thinking is really good," Ao Shang said with a smile. "Not to mention that I don't have the heavenly dragon language technique here. Even if I did, if I show it to you now, you won't be able to understand it." At this point, Ao Shang suddenly remembered something. He looked around and asked in a low voice, "Oh right, don't you have the incomplete dragon jade? Doesn't that thing have the heavenly dragon language technique? You haven't seen it before?" "No." Xiao Hua shook his head and said, "There is only the dragon transformation art inside. Nothing else?" I know." Ao Shang nodded and said with a smile, "It must be because that dragon jade is incomplete. You can't see the heavenly dragon language technique inside. When you find the last dragon jade, you will be able to see it." "Are you sure?" Xiao Hua asked. Ao Shang tilted his head and said, "Of course. I know that several heavenly dragon language techniques on Dragon Island were obtained from the dragon jade. Among them, I won't say the rest." Ao Shang looked at Xiaoyun a few times. Xiao Hua nodded his head slightly and kept Xiaoyun's dragon body into the space. He looked at Lu Yi and said, "Disciple, you don't have to worry. Master is going to enter the Stacking Jade Legacy Realm to train. My goal is to find this dragon jade. After I find it, Master can help Xiaoyun remove the restriction. Of course, even if Master is unable to find the dragon jade, I will still find other things to ask the elders of Dragon Island to help." Don't worry, Brother Lu." At this moment, Ao Shang shrunk his dragon body to an extremely small size. However, he is still much bigger than Lu Yi. He hooked Lu Yi's shoulder with his dragon claw and said, "I will also go to the Stacking Jade Legacy Realm with your master. At that time, I will find a few things that the elders like and let your master bring them back. And then many thanks, Brother Long. Louis smiled slightly and said very sincerely, TSK, we are brothers. Who are we? Ao Sheng said with a mischievous smile. However, you have to tell me how to play this dice. You also have to tell me how to tell if a woman is a virgin from her buttocks. I still don't know if I can see inside this palace. Hearing Ao Sheng's words, Louis's face turned slightly red. He stole a glance at Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua was already meditating with his head lowered, as if he didn't hear anything. Just like this, they stayed in Ao Sheng's palace for more than 3 months. Louis and Wang Bianfei accompanied Ao Sheng to play. That Louis has experienced a lot and knows a lot. He and Ao Sheng are birds of a feather. Especially since Louis can read people's hearts, he can naturally perceive Ao Sheng's likes and dislikes. In the end, Ao Sheng couldn't leave Louis and pestered Louis to play. Wang Bianfei's talent is outstanding. She acted as a buffer between the two of them, so as to not let the two of them become unfamiliar with each other. When a message came from outside the main hall, the originally empty main hall, not even a single pearl was left. It was all given to Louis and Wang Bianfei by Ao Sheng. Seeing the message appear, Xiao Hua and Ao Sheng both knew what it was. Xiao Hua put Louis and Wang Bianfei into the space, while Ao Sheng reluctantly opened the main hall's restriction. Compared to the experience in the stacking Jade Legacy realm, he still likes to play with 2 humans with similar temperaments. Seeing Ao Sheng put away the dragon scale, Xiao Hua probed, what? Did the stacking Jade Legacy realm open? -13. Chapter 4006. That's right. Ao Sheng slightly nodded his head. His shrunken figure gradually enlarged as he replied, the Forgotten Realm of Stacked Jade will open in a few days. All the dragons who have the qualifications to enter the Forgotten Realm must wait for orders in front of the Forgotten Realm. Xiao Hua looked at Ao Sheng's restored dragon body and said with a smile, why don't you directly transform into human form? Wouldn't it be more convenient when you are with Louis and the rest? Transform into human form? Ao Sheng flew up indifferently. While swinging his dragon tail, he replied, I would like to, but I have no way to transform. Xiao Hua asked curiously, how is that possible? I remember that demon beasts can transform into human form when they cultivate to a certain extent. Why can't you? Ao Sheng unhappily swept a glance at Xiao Hua. It seems like if Xiao Hua was not Louis's master, he would have turned hostile at this moment. Xiao Hua, if I ask you to transform into a pig, can you do it? Of course I can, but I might not do it. Xiao Hua already understood something. He followed Ao Sheng out of the palace and dived into the sea as he replied indifferently. You are right. Ao Sheng said proudly, my dragon race is incomparably noble. How can I transform into human form? Furthermore, with my bloodline, a human's body is simply unable to contain it. Even transforming into human form is impossible. As for the demon beasts you mentioned, they are beasts in the first place. Transforming from low to high rank might work. Then when I saw Xiao Yun that day, she had the appearance of a human. Xiao Hua asked doubtfully. Xiao Yun is a descendant of the Ho race. She was cursed by my dragon island. She can transform into human form for a short period of time. Ao Sheng said, and during this period of time, Xiao Yun cannot use dragon force, she cannot borrow dragon blood divine ability. It can be said that she does not have the strength to truss a chicken. So that's how it is. Xiao Hua finally understood something. No wonder he couldn't see through Xiao Yun's true form that day. After flying out of the palace, Ao Sheng flew towards the Dragon Island with great familiarity. He flew past layer upon layer of mountain ridges, flew past layer upon layer of palaces, and finally arrived in front of a strange, huge rock that is at least 10,000 zhang in size. At this moment, the giant rock was already surrounded by some dragon generals and dragon soldiers of Dragon Island. Around the giant rock, there were more than 5,000 dragon clan, demon clan, and human clan. They stood in different places, either sitting or standing. However, everyone's gaze fell on the giant rock. At this moment, the boulder was shaking slightly, but there were no fluctuations or vibrations. It was purely a change in shape, just like what a person would see when they were dizzy. Our position is over there. Ao Shang didn't even look at those humans and demons and directly flew to the dragons in front of the huge rock. Xiao Hua glanced down, but before he could distinguish which one was Ao Ma Yun, two dragon generals flew over, blocked Xiao Hua, and asked, "Fellow immortal, where's your true dragon card?" "How dare you?" Ao Shang said unhappily. "Can't you see that it's me who brought them here?" "Little elder," the two dragon generals said very respectfully. This general saw that he's a human brought here by Little Elder. However, Elder has ordered that in order to prevent other dragon clan from causing trouble, everyone who wants to participate in the trial of the stacked Jade Legacy Realm, regardless of dragon clan, demon clan, or human clan, must check the true dragon card. Of course, Little Elder, the dragon selection that Elder personally appointed to enter the stacked Jade Legacy Realm, is not included. Hehe, Xiao Hua, since it's Elder's order, you better take out the true dragon card. You also have one, don't you? Ao Shang, who was flattered, didn't get angry, and said to Xiao Hua with a smile. When Xiao Hua took out the true dragon card, the two dragon generals' faces immediately showed astonishment, because this true dragon card indicated Xiao Hua's position and also indicated Xiao Hua's current identity on Dragon Island. "Please." The two dragon generals returned the true dragon card to Xiao Hua and respectfully stepped aside, allowing Xiao Hua to follow Ao Shang to fly to the front of the giant rock. Who is this human? Could it be that his dragon chi is of a higher level than ours? An aqua-blue dragon asked in astonishment. Although his voice was low, it was heard clearly by Xiao Hua. "You don't even know this?" The other fiery red dragon mocked. "He's the human cultivator with the highest level of dragon chi during the dragon chi realm selection. I heard that his dragon chi is of a higher level than Little Elder." "How is that possible?" The other dragon was even more astonished. "All the dragons in my dragon clan don't have the noble dragon chi and bloodline of Little Elder. How can this human have it?" "You heard the human's nonsense, right?" I don't know. Anyway, we didn't participate in the dragon chi realm selection." The fiery red dragon answered. "However, I also heard that after the Dragon Chi Realm selection, more than 1,000 humans and demons entered the Star Brilliance Palace Hall, and in the end, only this human cultivator didn't come out. Also, didn't you see? This human followed behind Little Elder, so these rumors shouldn't be wrong." "Damn it, what kind of world is this? A human's dragon chi is actually more noble than a dragon's." When the dragons heard this, they couldn't understand, but their gazes were also somewhat strange. Although Xiao Hua heard these words, he didn't think too much about it, and also didn't understand the strange meaning in their gazes. At this moment, he was looking at the huge, oddly shaped stone and inwardly pondered. This must be the entrance to the stacked Jade Legacy Realm. According to the True Dragon Tablet's explanation, this stacked Jade Legacy Realm is a fragment of the Upper Realm's dragon domain that fell on Dragon Island, and everything inside originally belonged to the dragon domain. Precisely because of this, if the dragon's bloodline can't reach a certain degree of purity, it can't resist the dragon chi within the dragon domain, and it can't even enter. The stacked Jade Legacy Realm is similar to the Legacy Realm. It's a self-contained realm. However, the difference is that when the stacked Jade Legacy Realm opens, because it communicates with Dragon Island's heaven and earth origin chi, the time inside is the same as Dragon Island. And when the stacked Jade Legacy Realm closes, the time rule of the Dragon Domain is restored. It seems like the time in the Dragon Domain is a lot faster than the time in Dragon Island. None of the dragons who are trapped in the stacked Jade Legacy Realm can survive until the next time it opens. This is also the reason why Dragon Island wrote the first rule on the True Dragon Tablet. Once you receive the news of the stacked Jade Legacy Realm closing, you must leave the Legacy Realm in time. In addition, although the True Dragon Tablet recorded some of the circumstances when Dragon Island entered the stacked Jade Legacy Realm, it also clearly stated that the Legacy Realm is a fragment of the Dragon Domain. The time rule inside is different from Dragon Island. Everything that has already happened will change. The previous records might not be useful. Even the path to enter, the location, and so on will also change. The recorded path will also become nothingness. In other words, the location of the dragon cleansing pool this Xiao is looking for might not be the same as the location last time. Actually, the most important thing is, What is the purpose of Dragon Island's stacked jade legacy realm this time? The Great Elder and the others keep saying that it is for Dragon Island's prosperity, but is Dragon Island's prosperity entrusted to this small stacked jade legacy realm? Unfortunately, this Zhao's True Dragon tablet only recorded the location of the dragon cleansing pool. This location is actually useless. Other than this, there is also the mission to obtain the complete Longyu. There is no mention of anything else. And Ao Shang or the other dragon's True Dragon tablets this Xiao cannot see. Who knows what they're going to do when they enter? However, what does what they do have to do with this Xiao? This Xiao only needs to find the dragon cleansing pool, find the Longyu, and quickly come out of the stacked jade legacy realm. Just as he was thinking, a very familiar voice suddenly rang out. Taoist Master Xiao? Oh? Xiao Hua was slightly startled. He hurriedly stood in midair, looked up, and saw a dragon general wearing armor standing on the ground, looking at Xiao Hua with the same astonishment. Ao Zhan? You also came to participate in the stacked jade legacy realm? Xiao Hua recognized him at a glance. Isn't this the dragon guard Ao Zhan of the East Sea Dragon Palace that I met in the legacy realm? Haha, if Taoist Master Xiao can go to Dragon Island, why can't this Ao come to the stacked jade legacy realm to train? Ao Zhan laughed heartily, emphasizing the two words, Dragon Island. Xiao Hua nodded and said, Fellow immortal Ao is right. This Xiao has always wanted to find an opportunity to come to Dragon Island. Previously, I wanted to go to the East Sea Dragon Palace to find you, but I didn't expect that there would be an opportunity to appear in front of this Xiao. So this Xiao came to participate in the training. Speaking up to here, Xiao Hua looked at Ao Zhan's side and asked, How is Ao Qin? Why didn't he come? Thank you for your concern, fellow immortal. Ao Zhan said with a smile, Thanks to fellow immortal's help, I was able to bring Ao Qin back to the East Sea Dragon Palace safely. Ao Qin has already completely recovered. However, Ao Qin is the grandnephew of the East Sea Dragon Palace. His bloodline is not pure, so he does not have the qualifications to participate in the stacked Jade Legacy Realms training. Haha, then this Xiao wishes fellow immortal success in advance and smoothly complete the training. Xiao Hua smiled and cupped his hands. Ao Zhan asked curiously, Fellow immortal, could it be that you are that human cultivator whose dragon chi and dragon bloodline are even more noble than the little elder of Dragon Island in the rumors these days? Yes, I don't even know why. However, I think that even if you are fellow immortal, your current bloodline might not be inferior to Ao Shang's, right? Xiao Hua looked at Ao Zhan with a smile. In his heart, he knew better than all of the dragons that Ao Zhan obtained the true dragon bloodline of the Legacy Realm. At this time, his bloodline must be abnormally pure. Otherwise, with his identity as a dragon guard, it would be impossible for him to come to Dragon Island and enter the stacked Jade Legacy Realm to train. Ao Zhan shook his head slightly. How can this one be compared to the little elder? He is the dragon candidate of the next generation of elders. Now that fellow immortal is on good terms with him, in the future, the matters of Dragon Island will no longer have any trouble. Xiao Hua looked at Ao Shang, who flew in front of the huge rock complacently, and asked Ao Zhan with a bitter smile, Do you think this Xiao can really be on good terms with this little elder of Dragon Island? Haha, this one doesn't know. Ao Zhan laughed and cupped his hands. This one will take his leave first. After entering the Legacy Realm in a while, if there is a chance, this one hopes to join hands with fellow immortal. Join hands? Xiao Hua smiled mysteriously and asked, What do you want to do if we join hands? Hee. Ao Zhan shrugged his shoulders, looking even stranger than Xiao Hua. I don't know either. Maybe I will know after entering the stacked Jade Legacy Realm. -13.